Patrick, so the line's a legitimate question. Although I maintain, sort of like I felt with Utah's defensive line, regardless of the personnel and how down they might be with the lack of returning players, like there's just a history here that suggests that you're going to be fine along the offensive line at K-State, the same way that you're going to be fine along the Utah defensive line. We'll see.
Yeah, Ari, I don't find losing John Pastor for the season funny. It's not funny to me. I don't like it.
You weren't laughing about it?
Well, here's the deal. Like last year, Chris Kleiman was really hyping up George Fitzpatrick, the transfer from Ohio State. Told us a great story at Big 12 Media Days. He was their best offensive lineman. He had all Big 12 potential. He gets knocked out for a medical issue like 2 weeks before the season begins. Now you have a similar situation with John Pastor. The difference is Pastor was preseason all Big 12. He wasn't like this hype train guy. This would have been the equivalent of K-State losing their NFL center, Sam Hecht, last year around this time. So I'm very concerned, especially when your bread and butter is the ground game with Avery Johnson and Joe Jackson, and it was like Pastor and everybody else on the offensive line. So now you have basically 5 open spots on the O-line with 8 or 9 guys, most of them transfers that you're trying to piece together. I hope you're right. I hope you're right in that K-State's offensive line is just always rock solid, and there's no drop-off. And we don't even notice that Pastor's not there. But it is, I mean, he's the first All-Big 12 player to be out with an injury this season, for the entire season. It's kind of like when Dawson Pendergrass tore his ACL right before the year, or Quentin Joyner tore his ACL right before the year. Those were 2 major impact injuries in the Big 12.
What are you most looking forward to about football season?
Just overall?
Or what's the best part for you about football season? Like, what do you, when you're laying in bed, try to go to sleep, and you're like, man, I can't wait for football season. Like, what are you picturing?
Yeah, so I'm picturing high-profile non-conference games. And it sucks that those are going to be less and less as we move forward because the SEC and the Big Ten refuses to play anybody right now. But in the Big 12 this year, like, I cannot wait for Utah and Arkansas. It is week 2. It is the last game on the slate. It's a super late kickoff. It's nationally televised. Like, that's a game where I think we find out a lot about Utah. I can't wait for even just Cincinnati and Boston College, Kansas and Missouri, Texas A&M and Arizona State, Oklahoma State and Oregon, because, and we're going to do a little one thing later on, those non-conference games are super important. And I want to see how the Big 12 hangs.
Yeah, I'm most looking forward to the weather turning. You've been in the DFW area, and you've been outside. The one thing that I'm most excited about for football season is fall. And, like, not pseudo fall, which we get here in Texas, which is like, oh, yeah, you think this is fall, huh? 100 degrees, 95, 98. I'm talking like real fall.
Mm-hmm.
Like 50 degrees.
Yeah, September's not fall.
Yeah.
For most parts of the country.
No.
So I'm excited about that, too.
Yeah.
I might move to Minnesota this weekend. That sounds lovely this time of year.
Have you checked the weather? Is it
I'm
hot
sure
there?
it's nice.
Is it unseasonably warm there?
It does actually get quite warm.
Yeah.
Up there. Don't you have a birthday coming up also?
I do, yeah. I do. Sunday.
Sunday?
Yeah.
Big plans?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. It's funny. I was actually thinking about that because last year, week 0 was my birthday. So I guess it's been pushed a week ahead this year. So it's like, we should be having football this weekend? Who decided that next weekend was the one to do it? Last year it was the 23rd was the first week, was week 0.
So I hate that we have to wait one extra week for the start of college football.
Agreed.
But I love that the calendar has been condensed and there are less bye weeks. Because you got...
Is that why?
Are you being sarcastic?
No.
Okay. Wait. You're not being sarcastic or you are being sarcastic?
Yes.
Okay.
Or no.
By the way, it's currently 65 in Minneapolis with a high of 77.
Let's go.
Today.
Yeah.
So let's go for out. What was your question?
I don't remember. No, it's about how the schedule is.
Yeah, that was it.
It wasn't a question. We were just talking.
But remember last year, like mid-October, week after week, 3, 4, 5, 6 Big 12 teams were on a bye. And so you'd have these Saturdays where there'd only be 4 or 5 games, maybe 6. This year it's not that way. Like, you get into the meat of the schedule when we are so, like, in the thick of it. And every Saturday can have a huge impact on league standings and college football playoff races. This year there's not as many byes. And so the slate, like mid-October, is loaded each and every Saturday. That part I cannot wait for.
Yeah. Should we talk about Deion Sanders for a second here? So let's do something we don't ever do. Let's talk about Deion Sanders, shall we? It's funny, that used to be a joke because we used to talk about Deion all the time, nonstop, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it felt like. The prime effect is wearing off. This is a front office sports profile Michael McCarthy released the other day, basically saying that, hey, Colorado's TV audience, which used to be in extremely high demand, is shrinking. That the ESPN TV viewership of Colorado games has fallen 67% over the last 3 seasons. Not just ESPN, I should say. ESPN, Fox, all of the TV partners has fallen 67% over the last 3 years. What does that say to you?
It says to me that the audience, they don't want to watch a losing football team. And when you go 3-9, that luster, that intrigue, that showmanship, it wears off, and it wears off quickly. It tells me that as much as Coach Prime is a brand and a major impactful figure in college football, a 3-9 football team, it doesn't matter. And even when Colorado was competitive, the 9-win season, they were shattering records. They were like the most watched team in the Big 12. Their game against BYU in the Alamo Bowl was a historic mark. It was the most watched non-college football bowl game in the history of television. That's Coach Prime. But that team was winning 9 games. That team had future NFL talent. And so I think that's the difference. For me, is the wins and the losses.
Yeah. It's interesting, too. I think in some ways it can be a little bit deceiving, and I'll get to that in a moment. But first, here's what Stephen Godfrey said on the College Football Inquirer podcast, sort of about the Deion phenomenon.
I sat in on a presentation by ESPN at an event, and I was there, so I took notes. Colorado accounted for 5 of the 15 most viewed college football games on ESPN in the 23-24 season. To think about that for a second, there's absolutely no way that makes sense. And additionally, in ESPN data, which I'm sure they're so happy I'm going to share, they could not account for why it exploded until they looked at the cultural dynamic. So what they term as multicultural viewership, that was 40% of the overall audience versus 26 for a normal non-Colorado game.
Which, from a demographic standpoint, is something a network wants. Like, that makes them very happy. So
you're talking about 2.4 million estimated non-white per game. You couldn't get 2.4 million on an equal Big 12 game that season. Total viewership. It was a phenomenon. I remember so many of our colleagues, the amount of ink that was spilled that year. I think it was kind of hilarious to watch because people were reckoning with something in real time. It was just something that we'd never seen before. We may never see again.
Yeah, and great context there. Basically, in what do you say, 2023, 5 of the 15 most viewed games were Colorado games, which is insane because they sort of came out of nowhere and then have now disappeared. But that's the thing, is it's like, all right, number one, the viewership was still pretty good for Colorado, right? Like they went from insane viewership to very good viewership. 2.1 million views, viewership per game over the last 5 years, third among all non-SEC, non-Big Ten programs behind Notre Dame and Florida State, ahead of Clemson and Miami. 2 million views on average over the course of Deion's career in Colorado. Puts them third behind non-SEC Big Ten programs. So it's sort of interesting how the article's painted in a way that's like, well, look at how their viewership has collapsed. It hasn't collapsed. It's declined, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. Not only were they bad last year, they were unwatchable. Like they They were not entertaining. They were boring and bad, which is just horrible. Deion is never boring. Deion's never boring, but his team was last year, and I think as a result, people tuned him out. Not to a degree that we've seen with maybe other games, but to a large degree relative to where they've been. It's important, I think, to bring this up because Texas Tech carries the Big 12 from a brand perspective right now, but I don't think we can sleep on the importance of Colorado and Deion and what they mean to this conference in terms of viewership and what the perception means for this conference. That audience they're not dead. They haven't gone away. They just left because the team was boring. And I think what you have here, and we heard that from Godfrey, is there's a lot of multicultural audience, right? There's a lot of black excellence, let's call it, that the viewership part of it. I think on top of that, there were a lot of people that wanted to watch Deion lose and fail, right? Like, here's this bombastic, aggressive Deion Sanders who's prime. I mean, he's just the so I think there's a lot of people that also want to tune in to watch them lose. It's the heel aspect of it. It's the love and hate part of it. That audience hasn't gone anywhere. They tuned in to watch them lose. They lost, and they were left.
Yeah.
They're just dormant. They're coming back, and this season they may come back.
So what you're saying, Colorado being competitive this year is really good for the Big 12 because the 2023 season that
good, interesting would be the word that I would use.
Yeah. Entertaining.
Yeah.
Last year's product was not entertaining.
No.
But even in 2023, the season that they referenced, Colorado only won 4 games, but they were a super entertaining product.
Well, it started with the TCU game, right?
Yep. They beat TCU week 1. Huge build-up. They enter the top 25. They started that year 4-2 before they lost their last 6 games. But even in their losses, they lost to USC in a shootout, 48-41. They lost to Stanford on national television, 46-43, another shootout game. They lost to Arizona, 34-31. That was Noah Fafita's freshman year, his breakout season. And then they lost to Utah by 6. Like, they were still in every game, and they were still doing it with Shedeur and Travis. They were just super young and not quite ready for that level of competition. And then they parlayed that into a 9-win campaign. So that 2-year window, you had all the things going for you. But like with everything in society, that newness, excitement factor, it wears off. And now you're in year 4, and you're going 3-9. It's not as trendy or as sexy anymore. But if they start winning football games again, everything else, the Deion factor, and I think his aura, if you will, trickles down to the entire program. Just everything feels more premium at Colorado. The uniforms, the players, their swagger, their hype videos on social media from their strength and conditioning coach. All of those things have a premium luxury feel to them that is purely Deion. So if you win 6 games, if you're competitive in all your games, that viewership will come right back.
Yeah, and I think there was a belief that Deion was not going to be successful, and so when they go and knock off TCU in that first game, it's like, whoa, maybe this could work.
Yeah.
And then, they were okay that first year. By the way, in the Pac-12 in 2023, where ESPN had fewer games, so they cherry-picked some of the better games, which is why the ratings might have been higher, but I digress. Year 2, they were really good, right? So it's proof of concept. And then these last 2 years without Shedeur, last year.
Mm-hmm.
The first,
he's going into year 4.
Thank you. Last year without Shedeur, without Travis Hunter, I think people were like, let's see if he can do without them. And then they tuned in and saw the most boring, bad football they've ever seen.
Right. And now, I think the way he's recruited in the portal, he's building this team to win versus to have eyeballs on his football team. Whereas even when he was at Jackson State, I remember watching that Division II or HBCU, whatever the official title is, national championship game, because I wanted to see Shedeur Sanders and I wanted to see Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter was a 5-star recruit who went to Jackson State. We had never seen anything like that in college football history. And he went there because of Coach Prime. And just watching that game against South Carolina State, I thought, okay, these guys are legit. Like, these are some NFL caliber players. is it going to work at college? It was just a fascinating experiment, kind of like Texas Tech last year, where the experiment was, can you win right away with a completely new transfer portal heavy roster? And Colorado and everything they're doing really fits so perfectly in the Big 12 because this is the most entertaining conference in America. The games are better than any other league. There's data to support that. The margin of victory is thinner than any other conference. Call it competitive balance, whatever you want to call it. The bottom line is it's the best value in college football, which bodes well for viewership for the future in the next TV cycle that we're going to see.
That's James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. We've got a lot to get to today, including Arizona State Athletic Director Graham Rossini joins us later on in the show. Plus, our Countdown to Kickoff series continues with Houston. On the way next, though, it's the cost of doing business. With James, I'm Ari. It's Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. Cheers to all you full-time fans. Modelo fan rules, full-time fan rules. Rule number 1, your team's schedule drops and you immediately block out every Saturday in your calendar because those aren't optional. Hopefully you've already done that. Schedule's dropped. We're close. Just put a black mark next to those dates. Can't go anywhere, can't do anything, especially in those times. Cheers to all you Modelo full-time fans. With James Westling, I'm Ari Tepkin. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Some Big 12 business news dealings to unlock. You want to start with your K-State patch?
Sure. Yeah, Kansas State, they agreed to a jersey patch sponsorship with Purple Wave Auction, which is a local staple in Manhattan, Kansas, a giant auction company. Anything from tractors to dishware, you can get it at Purple Wave Auction. But what K-State fans seem to be most excited about is the fact that the actual patch itself is purple. So it kind of naturally blends into the uniform. I've seen a lot of it's like uniform season, right, on social. Everybody complaining about their team's jersey patch colors, throwback uniforms being dropped. Baylor's got a sweet set that they just announced last night. But Purple Wave Auction, this is just one more jersey patch deal in the Big 12 and one more way for Kansas State to generate revenue.
Can we, is there a possibility that this offense is so good we could refer to it as the Purple Wave?
Ooh, I like that.
It not only fits from a color scheme standpoint, it literally is purple and says purple. And Purple Wave, you probably could not have a more seamless jersey patch sponsor for anybody. It's insane how awesome of a deal that is. Great job, Gene Taylor. Purple Wave Auction for used farm machinery and heavy equipment is how I understand. K-State becomes the 5th Big 12 program to announce a jersey patch sponsorship. BYU, Kansas, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia all have jersey patches as well. So the Purple Wave, man, that's as good as it gets.
And then we'll have a bunch of K-State fans wearing purple doing the wave on a Saturday. Purple Wave's been around forever.
By the way, I hate wave. I hate the wave.
Yeah.
Not Purple Wave. I like Purple Wave.
Just the wave in general.
Have we talked about this?
Yeah, we've discussed it.
Yeah, it's in fact, it's funny because I'm a White Sox fan, and there's actually a group. It started with they wanted to buy the cheapest lower level season tickets they could find, so they bought them in this Section 108. So they did this whole Section 108 podcast, and they're pretty big. But they created these shirts that says Wave sucks, but looks like White Sox. It's like the White Sox logo, and it says Wave sucks. And I'll be honest with you, I completely agree with it. Because it's like I'm trying to watch a baseball game, and I'm constantly having to get up and then sit back down. There's people in front of me standing, and it's like, just watch the game. Stop blocking my view of the game with this wave. Anyways, the wave sucks. This also came out. Kansas and the Players Era. So we knew that the Players Era obviously has a deal with the Big 12, and that's the Redbird. But before that deal, the Players Era and Kansas signed a deal. And we now see the specifics of that deal via Daniel Libet of Sportico. The term sheet includes $3.1 million from the Players Era and NIL opportunities, travel support, and other expenses in exchange for the Jayhawks men's basketball team competing in 3 games during its Las Vegas-based November tournament.
And wasn't there some pushback from the Players Era last season, or maybe it was 2 years ago, where teams weren't actually, or they were at least struggling to collect what had been promised to them? Since then, the Players Era Festival has only grown. It's expanded from 18 teams to 24. It's in Las Vegas, Florida, Houston, Auburn, Notre Dame, Kansas, a bunch of Big 12 schools. So that tells me that they've fixed that, and that the Players Era is actually generating enough revenue to make deals like this. It's a very watched preseason tournament and has become the marquee non-conference tournament in college basketball. It used to be the Maui Invitational, preseason NIT. You still have the Champions Classic, and you still have kind of these one-off deals, which I think we're going to see more and more of with Duke, essentially selling the rights to like 3 standalone non-conference games to Amazon Prime. More and more schools, I believe, will do that. And so that's the future of college basketball. Players era, these standalone one-offs. But this is a huge deal for KU on top of what's already promised to all these schools.
And I think the point you bring up is the whole point here. And that is, there are certain basketball brands that can stand on their own from a revenue standpoint. And there are very few of them. Kansas is certainly one of them. Duke, Kentucky, probably North Carolina. There's some others certainly in that upper echelon of they can command that type of dollars. But it's it's just chipping away on the business side of things because all of those programs also don't have a ton of revenue from the football side of things. Now, Kentucky does because they're in the SEC, but the point is, like, at those places, basketball drives the bus. Basketball's the big brand. It draws huge audiences, not in the same way that football does. So it's sort of the few schools where they're the exception, not the rule. The exception being basketball drives the bus at those schools and is the big brand. Kansas' football brand is nothing.
Right.
Kansas' basketball brand is huge. Commands a huge audience. Those are similar fans. Where'd they go for football?
And this is the second best league in the world outside of the NBA. That's the branding for the Big 12. And remember, the Big 12, the conference, struck its own 5-year deal with the Players Era last year, where the Big 12 takes a 15% stake in exchange for guaranteeing at least 8 teams in the tournament, which is why a team like Kansas State will be in the Players Era. And Kansas is one of those schools that initially they passed on the Players Era. When the launch came together, KU said, no, I don't think this is for me.
Why do you think that is?
Leverage, maybe? I mean, because now look at how
they didn't get a $3.1 million offer.
2.75 directly in NIL money. That buys you a really quality stretch 4. That buys you a catalyst at point guard. That buys you a Jock Vaughn type player at KU. So this is an amazing deal. A travel stipend, $150K for lodging and meals and other travel expenses. And again, when you have the Big 12, you have Kansas, that brand, and then you have the Players Era, which is by far the most watched non-conference event. All those 3 things collaborating together is tremendous and just kind of magnifies the impact of how important this tournament is.
Yeah, and it's actually a little bit different this year. There's 24 teams in this year's tournament. There's actually 2 different events. So Kansas will participate in the, I guess, first iteration of it alongside Florida, Houston, Auburn, Notre Dame. And then there's another 16-team edition the following week. So there's an 8-team edition and then a 16-team edition the following week. I think I understand that correctly.
Yeah.
It's very confusing.
Yeah, they're doing it different this year. And some of the
that doesn't add up to 24 teams. 18 and 16 does not add up to 24. Maybe it's 24 total, and some will play both weekends.
I think we know the first 2 opponents for just about everybody.
Okay.
And then I believe, if I understand correctly, your third opponent is to be determined based off of how you do in those first 2 games. Because Kansas State's pod is brutal. So I'm pretty sure that that's where we're at in terms of the bracket.
All right, tell me about the Progressive on-field logo.
The Progressive on-field sponsorship. So Progressive Insurance has announced a partnership with 13 college football programs. This will add on-field logos in addition to your respective school, in addition to the Big 12 or whatever conference you're in. And then if you're the Big 12, it's Monster Energy. So the schools are Boise State, Colorado, Georgia, Iowa, Kansas State, Ole Miss, Oregon, Purdue, SMU, Syracuse, Texas Tech, USC, and Wake Forest. So 3 of the 13 schools are Big 12 schools. Again, just another kind of cost of doing business thing where the league and the member institutions are finding these forward-thinking, progressive, no pun intended, ways of generating revenue.
Yeah.
Throw as many on-field logos as you want. As long as I can see the hash marks and the boundaries and the end zones and the yard markers, I'm here for it.
Do you really feel that way?
Yeah.
As many as you
I mean,
want?
we got to be able to see a little bit of green grass or turf.
I'd say 2 to 3. You could, I guess, argue 4, right? Like if you have 2 on one side, 2 on the other side, still feels like a lot.
Well, and how big are they going to be? Like, what's the actual dimensions?
I don't know. Good question.
The jersey patches, and this isn't a Big 12 thing, this is all of college football. The actual dimensions of the jersey patches are much larger than I had anticipated. I mean, they are very prevalent on these college football jerseys. We just pulled up the Kansas State graphic, the Purple Wave auction. It's huge. It basically stretches from collar to shoulder seam. That's a big patch. So are these logos going to be the equivalent of the same size as the Big 12 conference logo? The same size as your midfield logo, depending upon the school?
Yeah, and you know, ultimately, it's really interesting because I do wonder if these schools are going to tighten the belt here because, so obviously there's been so many other opportunities to monetize in ways that they never generated that revenue, and now they are. But it's sort of like, you know, in our own personal finances, from a standpoint of like, are you living paycheck to paycheck? Are you spending basically everything that you're making? And then you get a raise and it's like, oh, nice. Now I can save some money. Or the opposite, which is now just my cost of living is going to go up because, well, I make more money. Because they say that's kind of the case for most people is like you're going to spend up until what you make. And then when you get a raise, it's the same thing. You just keep, you know, spending more. And it feels like that's where college sports is at, where it's like they're making more, but they're spending more.
Yeah, cost of living in college football has skyrocketed. The housing market's never been more difficult. If you're a college football team, you've never had to spend this type of money anywhere. Even before NIL and transfer portal and programs that were doing it under the table, they weren't spending this type of money. A $7.5 million deal for a quarterback over 2 seasons. A $1 or $2 million deal for a above average pass rusher.
Yeah, but ultimately, if I'm in college football right now, I'm kind of sitting on the sideline for most of those. I'm seeing what that looks like in terms of success, and what the line between spending and success is. Because I'm just, and I think most of these Big 12 programs are at this spot. Like I'm not playing that game. I'm not going to win, and I don't think that's the right way to build. I'm not saying not to spend money. Of course you are. But $7.5 million on Sam Levitt? No, that's not going to work. Mm-hmm. We'll see how good LSU is. That's what they did.
And we'll see how good Indiana is again. Like, what is Indiana's roster? I would love to know their number. Are they a top 10 roster financially? Are they top 15? Are they somewhere between 10 and 20? Because they have shown that you don't have to be a top 5 spender and you can win a national championship, which opens the door for everybody else and a lot of teams in this league.
It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
James, your home for interviews, analysis, radio on TuneIn.
It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. James Westling is to my left, but if you're watching us on screen, he's on your right. I'm Ari Temkin, something like that. Yeah. And it's not just football season, it's fall season, and we've got women's soccer going on. Plus, volleyball starts tomorrow, and joining us now to talk about it is Sophie Smith, who is the volleyball ambassador for the Big 12. What's going on, Sophie? How are you?
Great. How are you guys?
Doing very well. Sophie was a part of Big 12 Studios coverage of, what was it called, the opening set?
Yes, correct.
So how did that go? And I guess before we sort of talk about the season, like what were the big storylines that you guys went over?
A lot of fun out in Provo. It was awesome getting to talk to all the coaches and all the players that they had come on. Basically, the main takeaways was, one, all these girls are super excited to get on the court and start this season. Two, there's a lot of star power in the Big 12. There's a lot of girls coming back who have already proved themselves in the Big 12, and then a lot of newcomers who are really going to change the dynamic of these teams. And obviously, Arizona State going back-to-back, one of the bigger storylines, can they hold that title and hold the kind of the mental strength it takes to be in the hunted now? People are coming after that title. So, yeah, a lot of excitement, a lot of talent in this conference that I'm excited to watch.
Yeah, I think, Sophie, when it comes to like football and men's basketball and women's basketball, we know where the Big 12 is relative to the other leagues in America. Where does the Big 12 sit when it comes to volleyball and all the other conferences?
Well, 10 teams made it to the NCAA tournament last year. One of the big questions is, can there be more? It was a record-setting year, that 10 teams. And there's 6 teams in the ABCA top 25 as well. So the Big 12 can compete. It's just this year, I think there's a lot to prove when it comes to the postseason. So, again, really excited to watch the girls in that postseason.
Yeah, so who's at the top, and then who do you kind of like as maybe sleepers this year?
Obviously, Arizona State, Kansas as well. I think one of the big sleepers is TCU, too, and even UCF. There's a lot of those teams in the middle to bottom in the preseason poll that can really make a jump. I think it's really anyone's game because every single night it can just be a test, that no night off mentality is also a big part of the Big 12. Just how these teams, they could be playing a ranked opponent every single night, even though they're just still playing in conference. So, again, Kansas, I think, is my biggest sleeper, even being a K-State grad. I think Matt Ulmer's doing just such a great job, and Lawrence getting these girls ready, and they have a lot of new talent coming in. So Kansas would be, even though they are at the top, I think the jumps that they're going to make, especially with their gauntlet of a preseason, I think that's really going to set them up for success going into conference play.
And how about star power? What are the names to know for this season, and how many returners are there, like at the top, preseason all-league, compared to newcomers?
I think Naomi Glover won Arizona State, her coming back. She just has a lot of, she's a star. The way that she can take over a game, and also the way that she can make players around her better, is one of her best qualities. And then they get an addition in Anaya Clinton, coming from Kansas State, transferred. The things that she's been able to do since spring coming into fall, she's just really improved a lot, and especially the chemistry that she's been able to build with this Arizona State team is great. And I just think all around the league, so many people are coming back just who have proved themselves in the Big 12, and they know what it takes to play in this league, which is just going to be such a huge asset. Having that veteran status in this league is going to be just great for the league overall.
You mentioned earlier that the 10 teams that made the tournament last year. What does that look like from a historical perspective? Was that the most ever?
Yeah, that was a record. Yep.
What was the previous record?
Off the top of my head, not sure.
Okay, I don't know if it was like shattered the previous record. I mean, do you think 10 is reasonable this year, or do you think that was sort of a one-year thing?
I think there can be more. I'm not sure how many more, maybe 3 or 4 more. I am very confident in those teams that were ranked in the middle of the preseason poll. There's a lot of room for them to jump up and really prove themselves.
When it comes to TCU, is Jalen Gibson back?
You guys didn't have me ready with my stats open.
She missed all of last year with a torn
Yes,
ACL.
she's back.
So that's huge for TCU.
Right.
So outside of Arizona State, back-to-back champs, who are the other teams? You mentioned Kansas as a dark horse contender, but who else are you looking at?
I'm looking at UCF too. They also have a lot of veterans who know what it takes to play in this league. Arizona as well, leading by Terita Stubbs. She has so much experience at Arizona and in the Big 12. And even Iowa State, they've got a lot of great talent too that I think they could be a really good sleeper and be able to make their mark in the conference as well.
Are there any like early season non-conference matchups that we need to watch for?
TCU's heading out to Vegas next week in the Players Era tournament. So they're going to have...
There's a Players Era volleyball tournament. We were just talking about the basketball side of it. Didn't realize there was a volleyball one.
Yep, there sure is. The first year they've done it. I'll be heading out there Thursday.
How many Big 12 teams are in that?
Just TCU.
Okay. Is it an 8-team field?
Nope, just 4.
4, okay. Starting small. And Arizona State has a huge match against Texas. That's tomorrow. What could that mean for the league?
I think it's huge. I think the games that are going to be played on these bigger scales and bigger levels is just going to bring more eyes to the Big 12. So many new things the Big 12 is doing too, adding me as a volleyball ambassador and also adding the in-season tournament and rivalry week, just being able for fans to know when things are going on, knowing when K-State and Kansas are going to play, when Arizona State's going to play. It's all going to be in 1 week. So I think all these new things and these new eyes that are going to be on this league is just going to be so good for it overall.
Yeah, so what's the in-season tournament you mentioned?
So in-season tournament is basically kind of like the NBA in-season tournament, just like the schedule. This could be completely wrong, but I think I'm going to get it right. Whoever has the best schedule from October 1st to November 1st month will win a trophy, basically.
So it's not an actual tournament. It's just basically like within conference play, they're playing for a trophy.
Correct.
Like a Commissioner's Cup type thing.
Right.
Super cool.
That's awesome.
Sophie, last thing for me. I would love to hear, you mentioned that you're doing some content for the Big 12. When did you get into content creation? And then give us some tips and tricks for Ari and myself.
Well, I think it kind of started around sophomore year, so 2023, kind of when social media started to pick up, and I was doing a lot of sideline reporting for Kansas State, and I knew there was just a big opportunity for me to capitalize on my own name, image, and likeness through social media and being able to put my name out there and inspire other young girls to want to get into this field and sort. So started doing kind of TikTok stuff and my Instagram stuff more, because you know how Instagram is, you guys, right? It's not as casual as it used to be, but now it kind of is. So I'm just getting started in that my sophomore year, and now I have this opportunity to do it on a bigger scale for the best conference in the nation. So maybe my biggest tips and tricks for you guys, I think you guys need to up your TikTok game. I really do. Ari, I've seen your stuff. I think you could take it up a notch.
Do you have TikTok?
No.
I've seen your stuff on Instagram.
Instagram, yeah.
Your reels, but I think you can post those on TikTok.
Should I?
Should we get a TikTok?
All right, I guess we should get a TikTok.
Man, I'm scared.
Maybe like a question of the day, maybe like after your shows.
Okay.
Maybe pick the best topic that you did.
Okay.
I like that.
Tell us more. And can you be our social media content?
You're hired.
I can. Boom. Glad I can get a pitch deck for you guys. I can get some ideas flowing.
This is great. This is extremely helpful.
Yeah, all right. So I hear TikTok. I hear question of the day. What else?
Can't give away all my secrets.
Like question of the day in life, in sports, in the Big 12. What do you? Yeah.
Maybe the best topic you think you talked about that day. Like, take that and then even highlighting it, and then be like, well, if you want to hear more, tune in.
Well said. Advice. This is fantastic. This is gold right here.
Okay. Love it.
Sophie, we're going to have you on more, talk all things social media and, of course, volleyball as well. Sophie Smith, the volleyball ambassador for the Big 12, joining us here on Big 12 Radio. Sophie, thanks so much for your time. Be well.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sophie.
Sophie Smith joining us here. Check out the work that she does in covering Big 12 volleyball and more as a Big 12 volleyball ambassador. Starts tomorrow. You mentioned Arizona State, Texas. That's a showdown. I mean, Texas is always on the national scene. They won back-to-back national championships in 2022 and 23. Penn State is another program that wins a ton. They won in 24, and then Texas A&M, surprisingly, beating Kentucky last year to win the national championship in 2025. So I was trying to remember. I think Texas was in the Big 12 when they won one of those championships, maybe.
What year?
22 and 23, 22.
22 maybe.
But beyond that, I'm not sure that the Big 12 has national championships. Texas, I know Baylor's had some really good runs. Just going back and looking at history, I mean, Nebraska in 95, that's not the Big 12. So the Big 12 in some respects has quality programs, and obviously Texas was a huge part of the success for Big 12 volleyball previously. But I think this is like the birth of the golden age of Big 12 volleyball in terms of teams that can win national championships. Arizona State, I mean, Arizona State can legitimately win a national championship this year.
Yeah.
I think Kansas might be able to as well because of the talent that they have from last year that was all young.
And I think with the sport of volleyball, like women's basketball, it is growing at a rapid rate. And I love some of the creative things that they're doing, like having a trophy for the toughest schedule from basically a 1-month stretch, start of October to end of October, and then having an in-season tournament, kind of like what the NBA does. That's going to draw a lot of eyeballs. And men's basketball with the Players Era Festival. I'm just a huge fan of these new age ideas. I miss bracket busters. College basketball, you had like a mid-major tournament right before Selection Sunday, mid-February. I thought that was so cool. They dropped it, and we haven't seen anything really like it until now with the Players Era, which is a preseason tournament to help your resume. Now it's power conference schools, but it's a huge, major, like, needle mover when it comes to if you're going to be a team that's on the bubble or in the tournament come March.
Well, I think, you know, it's interesting. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and they were talking about, like, the professional softball league, and they're like, you know, is there really interest in that? And I think what's happened in terms of sports is, like, you know, the mass appeal. We're talking about television ratings and 2 million viewers for Colorado games and, you know, what that looks like. That still exists. But what I think is really cool about the way that sports has become, you know, more fractured maybe not the right word, but like there's so many outlets, not just with social media, but other platforms to be able to consume sports in ways that we never were able to before. So like there really is a ton of growth in volleyball from a popularity standpoint. I think certainly because, you know, the players are becoming more high profile, but beyond that, it's like there's so many other outlets to find it. It used to be like, well, you couldn't find these games. They weren't available to you. And now they're available. There's lots of content around it, more so than ever before. So they're all serving different audiences.
And it's really cool to see. It's just the growth of all these sports collectively has been remarkable.
Yeah. All right, Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn to watch Big 12 Studios. One thing, we're making our way through Big 12 programs. What's one thing we're looking for each of them in football? It's Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn to watch Big 12 Studios.
Jordan Tyson. He found Tyson. Airborne. Got it.
Get downhill fairly quickly.
And big shoes to fill with Cam Scatteroo now in the NFL. Looking for the corner and the catch. Touchdown, ASU. Malik Brown takes his turn. Off play action. Levitt's playing Frogger back there. Oh, he found Tyson. Airborne. Got it. Outrageous.
That's been outstanding time from that college's defense. Levitt throws a laser. It's caught. It's Tyson. It's touchdown.
Responds. Another fourth down forthcoming.
Touchdown! Touchdown! Tyson!
Sam Levitt back at the switch. They motion out of the pistol. Play fake. Going vertical. Tyson the target. Contested catch for two. One of the best in college football. Gets the night started in Tempe. ASU offsides. It worked until it didn't. Now On a little end around, give into the end zone. Tyson, touchdown.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. He, in the Chiefs Kingdom shirt, is James Westling.
It's Fanatic Friday.
It is.
You referenced Joe Montana yesterday, which I was a huge fan of.
Chiefs legend.
Yeah.
He's known for being on the Chiefs. Of
He
course.
is.
I don't think he played for any other teams.
No.
Yeah.
Those 2 years were magical.
Yep. Jerry Rice, the legendary Denver Broncos wide receiver. Everybody remembers him for Denver, right?
Didn't he play for the Raiders, too?
Yep. Did he play for anybody else?
He played for the Seahawks.
Oh, the Seahawks.
That's
One
right.
of my favorite things. That could be a trivia segment.
Obscure teams that legendary players played for.
Patrick Ewing, Hakeem Olajuwon, MJ. The NBA is the best.
Yeah.
Scottie Pippen.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Yeah.
But you saw it in the NFL, too.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. All right, we did this earlier in the week, and we thought let's bring it back and kind of create our own, which is one thing. James, you came up with this concept, so why don't you unleash it on us?
Yeah, so it's one thing, and this can be any player, team, coach that we need to see for week one or the entire season. So I can kick us off
Do it.
with my one thing for BYU. BYU, the one thing that I want to see from BYU is them proving that they can handle preseason expectations, because there weren't any last year. And so can BYU prove that it is a permanent Big 12 heavyweight? Because 2 years ago, this team was coming off a 5-win season. Nobody saw an 11-2 campaign coming. Last year, true freshman quarterback, nobody saw 12-2. This year, everybody sees it. BYU's being touted as the favorite to maybe win this league by a lot of publications and somebody else in this room. 23-4 the last 2 years. And everybody's highlighting this BYU Notre Dame game, right? But I think the difference this season is BYU is very much a target now for everybody else in the Big 12. It's not just Texas Tech. BYU has entered that conversation. And last year, until about the month of November, they were still kind of sneaking up on people. And they weren't blowing teams out. They were winning games, but they didn't have those signature quality, we're going to beat you by 40 type wins like Texas Tech had.
Right.
So that's the difference for me this season with the Cougars.
Yeah, it's a great call. One thing I need to see from Will Hammond is his knee. Right, so we know that, the expectation initially after he tore his ACL was that he'd be out for a year. And it's a big reason why Texas Tech went and got Sorsby. But in light of the Sorsby scandal, or perhaps just based on Will Hammond's own ability to get back quicker, he's now in line to be able to start the season as the starter. But here's the deal, Texas Tech needs Will Hammond to be a running threat. When you go back and look at what went wrong for Texas Tech last year, and not much did, but certainly the one thing that went wrong was once Oregon put the screws on them in terms of their blitz, Baron Morton was a sitting duck. Couldn't do anything. Guys weren't getting open on the field, windows were closed, and he just collapsed and went down in a heap of a sack, right? So they need, big picture, they need Will Hammond to be able to use his legs, and if he's compromised because of the ACL injury, then I think he's not going to be as good as Texas Tech needs him to be. And here's the thing, the knee's not going to get better over the course of the season. And maybe the knee is the wrong thing to point out, but the more football you play, the more hurt you get. Not injured, hurt. Because all these guys by the end of the year are hurt.
Yeah.
They've got a host of maladies and issues and injuries that have added up over the course of the season. So it's once you start playing, you're not going to be fresher as the season progresses. You're only going to be worse. So one thing I want to see from Will Hammond is his knee. Can he run? Is he a legitimate dual threat, or is he trying to be more of a pocket passer?
It's a great point. It's why these preseason injuries are, I think, way more important than they get credit for. Because teams don't get healthier as the season goes along.
No, right.
They only get more and more beat up.
Right, it's like a fallacy. We'll get healthy. We'll get this guy back. Oh, yeah?
No, you won't.
Right, or you might get him back, and then you lose 3 others in the process.
Totally.
It's football. It's a very dangerous game.
Yeah. All right, my second thing is Noah Fafita to win the Heisman or be in the conversation, because Arizona's got this big push for their all-Big 12 quarterback. He has to not just win, but perform in the biggest games on their schedule. Because last season, he doesn't need more career statistics. He needs Arizona to be nationally relevant. They start the season unranked in the preseason top 25. Their schedule, they have a huge game week 2 at BYU. Noah Fafita needs to show up in that game and do it in a big way. And Arizona needs to be a team that's in contention for a Big 12 championship, for him to even sniff the Heisman. And last year, Noah Fafita had a fantastic year, but his worst games were cold weather games on the road, a la Iowa State, where Iowa State dominated that game in mid-October, and Noah Fafita had his worst game of the year. So he's already shattered all these Arizona records, but they're still a team that's starting the 4th among teams receiving votes in the top 25. They're the 4th team out. He's nationally known, but for him to be a true contender, Arizona's got to win at least 9 because of their schedule. It's tougher, or even 10 games this year and be a team that's in the conversation for a Big 12 championship.
Yeah, and just sticking on Arizona, I'm going to go to the other side of the ball, because one thing that I need to see from Arizona is the defensive side of the football. Because the one thing about Arizona in 2025 and the leap that they made, it was a defensive leap, and the defense is the part that's gone now. Danny Gonzalez is heading into year 2 as the defensive coordinator for Arizona. Yards were cut from 413 per game in 24 to 308.5, second best in the Big 12. But well documented, we've talked a lot about it. Trey Stukes, Dalton Johnson, Genesis Smith are all gone from a secondary that was a known quantity last year. And you just can't, if you're Arizona, easily replace NFL talent with NFL talent. This is not Georgia. And so when we look at this team, the 9-4 record certainly is attributed to Fafita, and I'm not trying to diminish him, but I think it was more about the defensive jump than anything else. And so I need to see what this defense is going to look like. Again, they don't have to be as good as they were in their secondary to still be good. They can be good in different ways. That's where I'll have to see what Danny Gonzalez has done in order to try to improve this defense after losing 4 NFL players.
All right, my next one thing. This pertains to the Big 12 as a whole. So, and I've got to remember the exact language I used. The one thing the Big 12 must do to have multiple college football playoff bids. To me, more than one elite team. BYU was not elite last year. They beat Colorado, a 3-9 football team, by a field goal. They beat Arizona by 6. They beat Utah by 3, a game in which Utah outgained them. All the analytics say if that game's played 10 times, Utah wins at 9. So that's the one thing. But my point is that the Big 12 has to have a signature. To have 2 elite teams and to raise the bar, you have to have a signature non-conference win. The league did not have a signature non-conference marquee win last year. I'm talking about somebody knocking off like a top 10 team. Baylor and Auburn would maybe fit that bill a little bit. But I look at Arizona State, Texas A&M, I look at BYU, Notre Dame, like Cincinnati losing to Boston College, that's fine. TCU losing to North Carolina, the league can withstand that. But the league has to have a signature marquee win to move the needle when it comes to the perception of the league this year.
Probably means an SEC or Big Ten one.
Yeah.
One thing I need to see from TCU is whether a Harvard quarterback can run a brand new system in a foreign country. And that's not a week 1 thing, it's a week 0 thing, right? We've talked a lot about TCU and can they compete in the Big 12? Well, they've got a really tough schedule. Tough break for them. It's back-to-back years with tough schedules. Well, if this offense works and looks good against a Bill Belichick defense, I know they were bad last year, but I don't see any way they're not improved, especially defensively. So if this offense can operate and Craig has command of this offense after stepping in from Harvard to learn a brand new offense in foreign country, I think that translates well all season long. And remember, TCU comes back, they get some time off before they kick it back off again. So a win goes a long way, but it's more about showing me that a new quarterback has command of a new offense in a foreign country.
How many times do you think he puts it up against North Carolina? I mean, Josh Hoover averaged like 35 attempts a game last year.
No, it's a great point. I would say 20 passing attempts. I think anything higher than 25 says that TCU is losing. 20 attempts for Jaden Craig week 1 against week 0 against North Carolina here says that they're in command, they're running the ball effectively, and they're passing about as much as they need to. 25 to 30 says they're in trouble and they're trying to pass to get back in the game. The running game's not working, their line's not moving, the defense for North Carolina. I'm glad you pointed that out because there's probably no individual stat that's more telling about how this game will go than that. Passing attempts.
Dude, this is wild. So we assume that TCU's not going to be throwing the football as much, right? Josh Hoover played in 12 games last year. He attempted 413 passes, right around that 35 attempts number that I just dished out, 34.4. The UConn quarterback under Gordon Samus, who was the OC at UConn last year, now at TCU. Their quarterback attempted also 413 passes in 12 games, 34.4 per game. They were throwing it way more than the perception. They just did it in a very different way. And I don't know if it's because maybe the ground game had enough success that they had more plays than TCU, but the exact same number of passing attempts in the exact same number of games.
With a lot less interceptions.
Way less interceptions.
I'd also like to look at what Jaden Craig had from a passing attempt standpoint last season. I'll find it in a second. Can you just have it for a second?
Oh, of course I can. Because my last one thing is also about a quarterback.
338 attempts last year.
Way less. And how many games?
12.
12 games. Way less. Way less. A lot less. It's like 100 more. All right, my last thing is Arizona State. My last one thing, I should say. Arizona State needs from its quarterback, whoever it is, Cutter Boley or Mikey Keene, they need to make sure that these wide receivers are the stars. This is the most talented wide receiver room, even with Jordan Tyson, a top 10 NFL draft pick, departing for the NFL. This is the most talented wide receiver room that Kenny Dillingham has had at Arizona State. Omarion Miller, top 3 wide receiver portal addition from Colorado. Reed Harris, NFL scouts are obsessed with this kid. He's probably going to be a first-round NFL draft pick. And then Raiden Vines-Bright from Washington was their vertical threat last year and very productive in the Big Ten. They've also added a stable of running backs. Marquise Gillis is a name to keep an eye on. He was like a top 10 rusher at the FCS level last year. So they're loaded at the skill positions. Whoever the quarterback is, limit mistakes, get the ball to your stars, your wide receiver, and make sure they are the guys that are household names by season end.
Okay, I was wrong. It was 11 games.
Okay.
So he was at 30.7 attempts per game last year at Harvard.
So about fewer.
So are we
4 or 5 less?
Are we underestimating how much they're going to throw the ball?
Yes.
Clearly.
That is my takeaway.
I just told you if they throw 25 to 30 times, it means they're probably losing and having to play catch-up. And the stats say that they're going to throw the ball 30 times.
Yep. They will throw it 30 times. I think it's probably a good thing if they're throwing it less because it means they're up by a ton.
Or, yeah, and their ground game is working. Great point. All right, one thing I need to see from Colorado is how quickly can their new schemes coalesce? So Colorado has a new offensive and defensive coordinator. There's a lot of excitement that they finally have the right coordinators in place. Well, how quickly can, Julian Lewis have command of this new offense, of this go-go offense? How quickly can this defense have command of the Chris Marv defense? They open up at Georgia Tech on the road in Atlanta. They have Northwestern in Chicago a few weeks after that, Evanston, right? I mean, so it's how quickly can it come together, because week 1 is not Long Island like it is for Kansas, or I don't know, pick another easy week 1 game that's on the schedule for the Big 12. Like, you jump right into it with brand new coordinators. All right, that's
Georgia Tech is a winnable game.
Yeah, I agree.
Haynes King is no longer there. Alberto Mendoza is the Georgia Tech quarterback.
He is?
Yes.
The brother of Fernando.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Brother of Fernando.
Thought you were asking me. He is?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he is.
He is him.
He is him.
Transfer from Indiana.
All right, Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo. Our countdown to kickoff for Houston continues next. It's Big 12 today.
2025 calendar. Dean Connors with the handoff. Connors breaks free again. Dean Connors against his former squad with his second touchdown of the night.
And maybe get a little overzealous and leave some room for Connor Wiggins. Fakes the QB draw. No way catch! Are you kidding me? Dean Connors stabs it with one hand. But the individual effort from Connors to get a hand on that one and bring it in, that's the kind of play that gets the sideline juiced.
TCU the edge, and look at Dean Connors go. Dino on the go.
They've been on the field for a while. They want to stay on the field offensively. Whitman to throw. Connors.
Oh, my God.
He's got it. Trumped him. Room to run. Connors tripped up at the 10-yard line.
The rest is all the big 4-4. Dean Connors up the sideline.
Big 12 today, Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Cheers to you, Modelo full-time fans who have been with us throughout the entire offseason. We are closing in on the regular season. Next Friday, we'll have a game to discuss with TCU in North Carolina and Dublin. We're talking countdown to kickoff Houston. Our series continues. Our countdown to kickoff with the Houston Cougars. And I think we this immediate belief, like we identified them as like, hey, this is a sleeper team for 2026. This is going to be a really good team with who they bring back and how they finished. And it's just amazing to see how they've gone from severely underrated to now being in the AP preseason top 25. Probably something I didn't expect, but it's just an interesting jumping off point that kind of everybody recognized over the course of this offseason about how good Houston could be. The other thing I'll say about Houston is we've looked at Houston all offseason, and it's not a question of how good they're going to be, because they're going to be good. It's a given. To me, can they compete for a Big 12 championship? It's about their depth. I think 1 through 22 is a good football team. Really good. Very good. Really good offensive line. Quarterback. Running back room. The wide receivers should be really good. The defense has some pieces, but how much depth do they have to be able to withstand the inevitable injuries that everybody has over the course of the season? I think those are two things worth mentioning. Like, they're going to be good. There's no question about that. But how good depends on their depth and where they lose guys.
Mm-hmm. And they have a much more challenging schedule. That's another thing that I flag when it comes to Houston. Production-wise, 71% of their returning production on offense, 58% on defense, and they add some really impressive portal pieces. This was a top 10 transfer portal class in the country. Net portal additions versus guys that they lost. But depth, that's a great point, because the offensive line wasn't good enough last year. It was okay, but it was the difference between hey, this is a really nice jump versus this is a team that can win a Big 12 championship. For me, it was in the trenches. Their starting running back averaged less than 5 yards per carry. Connor Wegman was their second leading rusher and had 700 yards a season ago. Now they bring in Mekhi Hughes at running back, who's a top 5 running back in this league. He's a really good, powerful back. He breaks a lot of tackles. But the depth on the offensive line, if you lost a Shadre Hurst, if you lost a Drew Terrell, if you lost an Anthony Boswell, you could be in trouble because we don't know enough about the backups. And then defensively, I think that's another spot where we know that just under Willie Fritz, defensively, they're going to be solid, right? But the defensive line, we know last year, the last 4 games only had like 2 sacks. They couldn't get pressure on opposing quarterbacks. And in the West Virginia game, the times that West Virginia did throw it, they were out of alignment. Huge reason why West Virginia pulled off that upset road win, 45-35 in Houston's backyard. So there are still some things when it comes to Houston that they've got to clean up for this season if they are going to be legit.
Yeah. You mentioned some of the things we know about Houston. We know the quarterback, Connor Wegman, had 3,400 yards of total offense, including 2,700 passing and 700 rushing yards. He also had 11 rushing scores and 25 passing touchdowns, along with 9 interceptions. It's year 2 in the same system for the senior quarterback, Wegman. We also know the coaching staff, right? Willie Fritz, year 3. Slade Nagel, year 2 at offensive coordinator. Austin Armstrong, year 2 at defensive coordinator. So for a program that has seen a lot of turnover with coordinators and players, to have the same staff with continuity is a huge deal. We know the offensive line, you mentioned that. We know the quarterback tandem, too, is pretty legit. Will James, second team All-Big 12 last year. He's probably the best returning returning player on the defense for Houston. And then Stephen F. Austin transfer Jalen Mayo, ranked 10th and 9th in coverage grade at their positions according to PFF. So you have one guy who ranked 9th in coverage grade via PFF, and Will James. The other was Jalen Mayo from Stephen F. Austin, who graded 10th. So, and then 6 road games in their 12 games. We know that. It's a big deal. Houston went 6-0 on the road in 2025. A historical outlier that is hard to repeat. But can they do it? they've got 6 more road games this year. What don't we know?
Well, I would say we don't know who's going to start on the defensive line. I would say we don't know who's going to emerge as the other wide receiver for Amari Thomas. They brought in Trent Walker from Oregon State, but camp buzz has been all about Kobe Young. It's been all about Harvey Broussard, who saw a little bit of playing time last year. And then we don't know about the depth. That's a major concern. And we don't know how they're going to utilize their 5-star freshman backup quarterback, Keyshawn Henderson. Is he going to be on the field in some capacity week 1? Will there be goal line packages for him? Will they put him in the backfield with Connor Wegman? Houston has pieces to be more dynamic this year offensively. And we don't know. Connor Wegman tells us that he's fully healthy, but we don't know if he can hold up over the entire course of a season. He got knocked out of multiple games last year. He had 9 interceptions. We don't know if he's cleaned that up. So there are some things that are concerning when it comes to Houston. And I think a lot of this Houston buzz has to do with the fact that they beat LSU in the bowl game. They beat an SEC team. There was a lot of attention on LSU because they were pursuing Lane Kiffin, or maybe had even hired him by that point in the calendar. And so that had eyeballs on it, and that helped with the narrative for Houston for this season. But those road games are tough because those 6 road games are in gnarly conditions at Utah, at Colorado, and at West Virginia, all the back half of the season, where it will be very much fall and winter-like conditions in those locations. That's a major prove-it-to-me type thing because we haven't seen Houston have to play in those type of environments in their first 2 years in this league.
Yeah, great stuff. Agree with all of those. Last one I'll add in terms of what we don't know is which Mekhi Hughes are we getting at Houston? The Oregon version or the Tulane version? Mekhi rushed for just under 2,000 yards across 2 seasons at Tulane under Fritz and Slade Nagel. He then went to Oregon in 2025 and did not replicate it at all. Was it just a logjam of running backs? But I would say we just assume Mekhi Hughes will pick it up from where he was with Nagel and Fritz at Tulane, and maybe he will, especially behind this offensive line. But I think we also have to identify the fact that he might be the Oregon version too. All right, what has to happen for Houston to contend?
Well, their secondary has to be as good as it was last year. They have Will James in the secondary. He's an all Big 12 guy. He had 3 picks and a couple of forced fumbles. Kentrell Webb is back. He had 70 or more tackles. I really like Jordan Allen. He's a guy that's all over the field. But for them to contend, they have to be better at the line of scrimmage. For me, it's the offensive line. Shadray Hurst, preseason All-American. Can he live up to that hype? But defensively, when you look at their depth chart, they add Demarion Thomas, who's the big nose tackle transfer from Oklahoma State, was at Vanderbilt in All-SEC the year before, but he only played in 4 games at Oklahoma State so he could preserve his red shirt after Gundy got fired. And then Ashton Porter's got to be a monster off the edge. He's a transfer from Oregon. He had near double-digit sacks last season, mostly off the bench for the Ducks. He's explosive, but he's from Houston. He's another one of these stories, kind of like Mekhi Hughes, that they come back, they reunite with the connections that they have with Coach Willie Fritz. This is very much a Houston-based roster in terms of where these players were born and raised and played high school ball.
Yeah, I think, to me, I'm focused more on the schedule part of it in terms of what has to happen for them to contend. I love what you brought up, but, I think it starts with they've got to win in Lubbock on September 18th, and if they don't, they've got to win 5 straight after losing there. We talked about it when it came to the road to Arlington. That's the hinge point, is that game. And, again, maybe they don't win that game, but then for them to get back to get to Arlington, they've got to then win 5 straight after that. They also have to go at least 4-2 on the road. Again, they went 6-0 last year, but they've got to go at least 4-2. 6 road games: Tech, Georgia Southern, K-State, Utah, Colorado, West Virginia. Can they win 4 of those? Georgia Southern, Colorado, West Virginia, and then one of K-State, Utah, Texas Tech?
K-State and Utah are on the road.
Yeah.
Texas Tech's on the road.
Yeah.
And those are the difficult road games. The easy road games are the games in those cold weather environments where, what if Colorado does have a breakthrough year?
And at elevation. West Virginia's a long-distance travel, always difficult. Didn't Houston lose to West Virginia last year too?
Yes, West Virginia beat them in Houston 45-35 and gashed them for 250 rushing yards.
They're not going 6-0 on their road schedule like they did last year.
No.
But 3-3 means they're not going to Arlington either.
Right. Exactly. And then if you lose another game that's supposed to be a must-win, all of a sudden you've got 4 losses. You look at Willie Fritz and his teams at Tulane. Willie Fritz is a coach that he's rebuilt programs from the ground up. Once he gets there, it's hard to win 10 games every year.
Right. Right.
So, like, they could have a better roster and go 8-4 this year and finish 5th or 6th in the Big 12.
Great point. All right, what are the camp battles?
Well, I brought up the wide receiver room. A lot of unknowns there. Kobe Young has shined. They lost a guy that had looked really good in camp, who I'm not even going to try and say his name. Okay, yeah, I will. Tunkara?
Sounds right.
Okay.
Tunkara?
Let's just go with it.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be back, but he was emerging. No mention of Trent Walker. Harvey Broussard III is a transfer from Louisiana who was on this team last year and just wasn't quite ready. They have a true freshman they're really excited about. But remember, last year it was like Amari Thomas, Tanner Koziol was the tight end. They didn't have that stretch the field vertical type wide receiver talent. They're hoping Kobe Young can be that guy. He was a track star in high school. And then RB2 is a question mark for me. You've got Mekhi Hughes, but who's the backup? Rashawn Sanford II suffered a season-ending injury like week 3 last year. And then DJ Butler is a guy that's getting some reps as part of that running back room.
Yeah, the running back room is the one identified. Butler kind of popped earlier. Rashawn Sanford is a year removed from that knee injury that cost him all of 2025. And look out for 4-star true freshman John Hebert, who's also had some run with the second unit behind Henderson. So, you know, we talked about which Mekhi Hughes is Houston getting, and you assume they're getting RB1 Hughes, the one from Tulane. But, you know, what's the depth look like behind him? Injury news, anything to discuss?
The big one's that wide receiver.
Tunkara, Mwiz Tunkara.
Yeah, sophomore.
We'll have to ask Joseph Duarte how to say his name.
He's a transfer from Florida, and he's 6'3", 210 pounds. Like, he is a guy that was probably going to start for them at wide receiver. Outside of that, looks like everybody on the offensive line is healthy. Again, Joseph Duarte will have more updates on that than we can provide at this time, but all the preseason, this guy's out for the year, injuries. I haven't seen any from the Cougars, which is a good thing for Houston.
Yeah, and Tunkara, I think Fritz said he's expected to miss a month. That was on August 5th, so we're, you know, if that's the case, he should be back for the Texas Tech game, which is the most important one.
He's like back week 2 then.
All right, Big 12 today. Our countdown to kickoff with Houston continues with Joseph Duarte, our buddy from the Houston Chronicle. That's next. It's Big 12 today, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
Pressure again off the edge. Wigman has Koziel. He's got room to run. Touchdown.
Great protection. Jump ball for his tight end. And he reeled it in. Wow. How about Tanner Koziel? Tanner Koziel on that play. Goes up in the middle of 3 defenders.
Oh, nice.
To the end zone. The tight end, Koziel. Touchdown, Houston.
True 6'7", he blinked, he didn't blink and said, absolutely he is. And when you've got that against a guy who, although isn't short at 6 foot, and Marquise Groves Killapoo, 6 foot 179, the red shirt junior transfer is no match for a guy 6'7", 257. You got reach on him, you got size on him, and a quarterback that can put it right on the spot. That's outstanding football.
Looking for 6 instead of 3. Wigman, touchdown. His favorite target, Tanner Koziel.
That point to the flat, he's going to be the crosser versus man coverage. Better double team this guy ever on the field.
The game.
James, your home for interviews, analysis, and all things Big 12. This is Big 12 Radio on TuneIn.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. James Westling, Ari Temkin. Our countdown to kickoff brings us out to Houston, Texas, where Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle is joining us from the Cougars practice facility. What's up, Joseph? How are you?
Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, well, what beat guy gives you this type of, I guess, we're setting the ambiance. You can get you a little visual of what's practice is like.
Oh, this is perfect, dude. Yeah, this is the best view we could possibly get.
So, yeah, anything for you guys.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you. All right, like, we're here. We've talked all the offseason about this team. There's obviously high expectations. One of the things we talked about, Joseph, was like when last year ended, it was like, oh, here's a team that I don't think people will realize is definitely a sleeper in terms of winning a Big 12 championship in Houston. And then now they're ranked in the AP Top 25. So it's like, oh, I guess people also figured out that they were going to be pretty good this year.
Yeah, and, I thought they were, they're obviously trending in the right direction after they won 10 and finished strong with that win over LSU. But, year to year now, can you really say what's going to happen the next? But what they needed to do was have a strong offseason, fill some major holes, and sort of build off of that momentum. And that's exactly what they did. They went out, they kept the core pieces, and that's no guarantee nowadays with rev share and NIL and all the deals that are thrown out there. So they kept the core, went out and filled their major needs. And now we can talk about it. We got to the summer. They're healthy. And yes, this is a team that many believe can be in that top 3 or so and compete for a Big 12 championship. And then once you get to that point, anything can happen. If they talk about college football playoff, I think it's a little premature, but this is certainly a Houston team that's trending upward in terms of what they've been able to accomplish under Willie Fritz.
Yeah, day 14 of Houston's fall camp. So what have you seen, Joe? Who has stood out? Maybe some surprises when you look at the last 2 weeks?
Well, let's start on sort of, I guess, the pieces that they went out and filled. At wide receiver, it was kind of the Amari Thomas show last year. I've really have liked what Trent Walker has brought, and he's going to be kind of the number 2 receiver. He's the guy they got from Oregon State. I think he's been a big addition. Kobe Young at receiver. So you look at receivers and kind of the weapons they've thrown and put around Connor Wegman. That was the key. I've liked that early in camp. And then you look at the backfield. This was a team that had Dean Connors, who's a very, very serviceable and talented back. But now I think they're deeper than they've ever been. They got Mekhi Hughes, who's really he's looking to prove something after just never fitting in at Oregon, after the great years he had at Tulane. So I like between him, Rashawn Sanford coming back from injury, you've got DJ Butler, and then they got a true freshman, John Hebert, who had 8,000 career yards in his prep career here in the Houston area. Those are 2 areas that I really like. And then, you look at the freshmen. They're going to have a lot of freshmen that have a chance to crack the 2 deep. I know a lot of people wonder about Keyshawn Henderson at quarterback. His time will come, but I think there's some other freshmen out there that will see playing time this year. Really before him, and at least significant playing time. So there's been a lot to kind of digest the first couple of weeks of camp.
All right, so you said Hebert. I called him Hebert, so thank you for didn't realize he was French. What's the receiver from Florida? What's his
Muiz Tankara. Muiz.
We were close with Tankara.
Let it roll off your tongue.
Muiz Tankara. So is he's dealing with an injury right now?
Yeah, he is, and he's been out the entire camp. This happened right before. That was kind of a blow, but then you see what they've had come back. They've got a guy from Texas Tech, Tyson Turner, that I think is going to factor into the mix. They've got a Jaquiz Martin is another guy to keep an eye on. So right now they feel like they're 6 or 7 deep, and that's not even counting some of the guys that they feel like can emerge as the season goes on. But Connor Wegman's going to have some targets to throw to, and that's not even including, they're real tight end heavy with this team. Got to replace Tanner Koziel. They feel like they've got a guy in Patrick Overmeyer who can be that type of guy. Maybe not quite the production, but can certainly provide another option in the passing game.
How about on the defensive side of the football? How are things looking there?
I really like the secondary. Now, this was a unit coming into the camp that had no questions. And really, when you look at this entire team, there weren't any questions really in terms of the starting the ones. But if you look specifically at in the secondary, you've got an all Big 12 corner of Will James. You've got Kentrell Webb and Jordan Allen at safety. But I think the real key in this group is going to be Jalen Mayo. This is a guy who sort of has worked his way up from Division II. Was at Stephen F. Austin last year, and he's going to start at the other corner spot opposite James. So Houston could have two of the best corner, or at least a quarter combo in the Big 12, and a guy that I think both of them could challenge for all conference. We know Will James is, but I think Jalen Mayo is going to surprise a lot of people based on just his size and athleticism. I like the secondary. I think where they kind of need to figure some things out is maybe the depth on the defensive line. They've got some really good pass rushers, Ashton Porter, Brandon Mack, Latravian McCutcheon. Guys like that are really going to allow Houston to put some pressure this season.
What is the strength of this team?
I think it's just the overall experience. Like we mentioned, secondary is really experienced. The offensive line, we haven't really talked about them, but for a team that added 3 new starters, all 3 of those guys were all conference at their last schools. They've got tons of snaps. So, Willie said this could be the best offensive line he's had in 34 years.
Wow.
So I'd put them up there. And those are things that you just haven't had at Houston, that consistency. But to me, the strength on defense is secondary. And then I think just overall on offense, having that depth and guys that it's not just a 1 or 2 man show. They've got some guys that they can sort of spread things out regardless of what position they play.
Joseph Duarte covers Houston for the Houston Chronicle. He's our inside source when it comes to Houston football. He's at camp and practice every day. Joe, what have you seen from Keyshawn Henderson? How many reps is he getting? Is he strictly with the twos? Are they using him in some specialized packages? Just what's the pulse on the 5-star freshman?
Willie may not want me to give everything. Let the cat out of the bag. But no. Coming out of the spring, this was a guy that took advantage of the bowl practices, went through the entire spring. So they've installed everything with Keyshawn. He knows everything about this offense. And, this week specifically, Connor Wegman hasn't thrown a few days this week. So that's allowed Keyshawn to run with the 1. So he's getting 1 reps, and it's not necessarily they expect him to play that role because this is Connor Wegman's team. It's just an opportunity to get him some experience. But I fully expect to see Keyshawn play this year. I think there are some packages where he will be out there, maybe some short yard stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if they put them both on the field at the same time. And that's just, getting him in there, and they feel like he can contribute. There are no more red shirts with the new 5 for 5, so you got to play these guys. You want to play them. But, let's face it, 2027 they open against LSU. That's when it's Keyshawn Henderson's team.
Wow.
But I think there's a way that he can contribute this season, just like a guy like Paris Melvin in the secondary and some other guys.
One of the things we were talking about is what kind of depth does this team have? I think when you look at their starters on both sides of the ball, like there's a lot of excitement for it, but inevitably teams deal with injuries. What does the depth look like for this team?
Well, offensive line is where they need to sort some stuff out because the ones are set, and they feel like they've got the next 4 behind them because you're not going to play with just 5 offensive linemen all year.
Right.
But the problem is with those guys, they don't have any snaps. You're talking about like a Larry Crawford and R.J. Lee, a Ronald McClain, a Noah Beebe. Those guys are either true freshmen or have been in college a few years and just haven't had an opportunity. So that's kind of where they're going to need maybe those first 2 games to get some guys in there, get some game reps, because I think that's one area. Like we said, I think they're good on depth at wide receiver and running back. The other areas would probably be maybe on the D line. Those are the 2 areas that they've got to get some guys in there and get some meaningful playing time so that they, it's just not a shell shock when they get in there if it's late in the year.
All right, Joe, between these 3 road games, how many does Houston need to win? At Texas Tech, at Kansas State, and at Utah. Based off of all the preseason expectations from the fans internally, what do you think is a fair number there out of those 3?
Minimum 2 wins. And that keeps you in the Big 12 race, and I believe that gives you some wiggle room. I don't think anyone's going to go undefeated in this race, and I think that there will be a 2-loss team get into the Big 12 championship game. So you got to win 2 of those. If you go 1-2, you basically got to do everything the rest of the way. And November's not bad for them. Some tricky road games, but nothing that you say they shouldn't have a chance to win all of them. But I certainly think, week 3, Texas Tech, that sets the tone. Even if you lose that one, you're still in it. But those other 2 places that you mentioned are pretty tough. So I'd say 2-1. If you can go 3-0, you're in the college football playoff discussion. You're probably top 12 around there sometime in the season. So those are the 3 big ones on the schedule.
Joseph, what is it about Willie Fritz?
Yeah, the guy just, wins everywhere he goes. Now, I have a vantage point of having been in college at Blinn, got to see a little bit of what he did and sort of where it all began. And this is a guy.
You and Michael Bishop and Willie Fritz? What's going on here?
No, Bishop, well, I was gone by the time Bishop was there. Okay. Bishop was there year 2. But yeah, I mean, Willie, whether it's been Blinn, whether it's been Central Missouri, whether it's been, Georgia Southern, Tulane, you go down the list, he just wins everywhere. And he's had a formula for this and a recipe. He's good. And I'm shocking that it took him this long to get a Power 4 job. But we see what he's done in the short time at Houston. I mean, this is the guy that you wanted. I mean, they needed some stability in this program, and he absolutely brings it. And that's why year 3, we're talking 10-win seasons and potential for playoffs. And that hasn't happened at Houston in a really long time on the major conference level.
All right. You have a unique perspective here. We know you've got a book coming out about Kelvin Sampson. In some ways, it feels like Kelvin and Willie Fritz are so different. In some ways, though, it feels like they're very similar. Can you just expand on that from your vantage point?
Yeah, actually, we had them on a podcast together the other night. They had never done an interview together. And basically, it's just like your point guard. You just served it up and let them run the fast break. Now, Kelvin's going to take his fair shots. Willie had to kind of work to get his shots in there. But, I mean, it's just great. And the dynamic between those 2, we're talking about 2 coaches that are probably among the 5 oldest in their respective sports and college athletics. And I tend to look at it more as experience and not age.
Right.
But I mean, both of them, though, if you look at their path, Kelvin was at Montana Tech. Willie was at Blinn. Kelvin also, did some other stuff. There's just a lot of parallels between what they've accomplished and the success that they had. And then they're just both very down to earth, but demanding coaches. They love their players. They'll do anything for their players, but it's sort of their way is how you do it. And it shows in the results. So basically, it's interesting, those 2, when you get them together. They've got some pretty interesting stories.
Joe, I know you got to go soon, so real quick, how's Houston's non-conference schedules shaping up for future seasons?
Yeah, they're good for 27 and 28. They've got to get 3 for 29, and then 30 and 31 they have Boise State. I don't think that series remains. So you could be looking at 3 full seasons that you need. Now, Eddie Nunez told us this week, the athletic director, that he's got 2 games pretty close for 29. I think one of them is going to be an FCS. One of them will be a group of 5. So they're starting to work that out. But between finding schedules and finding jersey patch sponsorships and stuff, there's a lot of stuff that's on the table right now that the athletic departments are having to find.
You're the best. Joseph Duarte, Houston Chronicle, one of the absolute bests. Appreciate your time, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Always fun to visit with Joseph Duarte. And he was holding his phone the whole time, which will really test your muscles. He was holding it up in front of the practice.
I just realized that.
Yeah, so you're like, let me keep asking you questions, Joe. Keep holding the phone up.
90 seconds before I have to set the phone down.
Impressive.
Joseph Hulk Hogan Duarte. I had no idea that he had superhuman strength.
Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. That is James Wesley. I am Ari Temkin. It's Big 12 Today.
And it's broken up. Latrell McCutcheon is a bad dude. And McCutcheon McCutcheon absolutely changes this ball game.
Levitt thought about taking a shot. Instead, he takes his shot from Latrell McCutcheon. And McCutcheon with bad intentions on that hit on Levitt.
Mack, the second, is playing that defensive end spot. And Buren crushed on the corner blitz. There's Latrell McCutcheon, senior. First sack of the season, and it was a loud one.
Out of an empty set. Murphy finds Wells, can't hold on. And they rule that incomplete. Latrell McCutcheon, who Willie Fritz believes is an NFL player with the PBU.
Well, he is some player, not afraid to make tackles either.
High snap. Welch wrestled down the backfield. That's Latrell McCutcheon, a willing tackler.
You know, he's a guy he only goes about 185 pounds at 6'1".
Another bad snap and exchange, and McClanahan has to run for it. He lost his hat. McCutcheon absolutely changes this ball game.
That's 126 nationally. Awful. Quick toss. Man. Gets popped. The ball is out. And it's out of bounds. Two leaping Cougars defenders. And Latrell McCutcheon and Sione Fotu.
With Ari and James, Monday through Friday, 8 to 11 Eastern Time. Your home for all things Big 12.
I'm going back to college.
That is a bed. That is a music bed.
I think you're going to continue. Sorry.
No, that's it. If you were going back to college, what would you be doing? I'd be prepping for the NBA.
I would not be.
I'd be hooping.
Be living large.
Okay.
If I could go, I mean, not a traditional like any other, having friends or seeing people that have kids that are starting college, and it's like, wow, I've never been more jealous of anyone in my entire life. Just like, I would love to go back to the summer after senior year of high school, when it's like, oh, just the start of college again? Let's do it. Just go back. Although, I will say, not in this era.
Okay, why?
I'm happy to not go back to college in this era.
Yeah, I think finding a job would be challenging.
Oh, that's the least of my issues.
Oh, okay.
Social media. So social media came on board with us in college, but it was totally different than it is today.
Yeah.
We were super lucky to be at college at the time we were.
Yeah.
The iPhone was invented right after we graduated college. June of 2006. It's been 20 years. So it's like, these are things that had they been around in college, may have made the college experience less fun.
Yeah.
Quite honest with
Pretty sure I have some very questionable Facebook albums.
you. Yeah.
Still looming, still lurking beneath the shadows.
I'm on it. I'm on it. Okay. So we talked a little bit about this yesterday, and the story continues to develop, and it's really important to kind of keep track of it. But, the NCAA does this 5-for-5 deal, which should include the 2022 class, only they started it with 2023. And so 2022 is like, hey, we're still technically then students, even though we've now lost our eligibility. And the NCAA is like, no, you're good, bye. Well, a judge in Colorado was like, no, they are. You said that they were, and they are. But the judge in Colorado said the 2022 class is eligible to play this season, but they can't move. They're not going to do anything to the roster limits or to transfer portal or anything else. Well, then a judge in Louisiana comes in and says, oh, no, you can transfer. Yeah, definitely. So that has opened the door for 40 athletes, 16 of them football players, to add to the portal. I would imagine there will be more suits filed that would, in different states, allow for the same thing. And so we're seeing now just a rash of what you would consider to be professional players, semi-professional, professional to a degree, trying to come back to college. And so there's a dynamic here that's really interesting. So I saw this earlier. So Jackson Kohler is committing to BYU, which I'm sure makes Kalani Sitake very happy. Oh, more money for basketball. So On3 says, breaking, former Utah Jazz forward Jackson Kohler has committed to BYU. Joe Tipton reports. Kohler played college ball at Michigan State. And there's a picture of Kohler in a Utah Jazz uniform that makes it seem like this dude's been playing for the Jazz.
Yep.
But he's not really a Jazz player because he wouldn't be going to BYU if he was.
Correct. He's part of like their summer league roster. He went undrafted, but I think he did sign like a two-way option contract. And that was the difference between like James Najee going to Baylor last year feels like nothing after what we're going through this offseason.
Totally.
Nobody's talking about Baylor and James Najee anymore. Thank goodness. Because that guy never signed an NBA contract. He was just drafted. He played overseas, just like everybody else from the Euro League or wherever that are now going to be playing college basketball and were a huge part of college basketball rosters last season. But it's wild that an all Big Ten stretch four who averaged like 12 or 13 points, 6 or 7 rebounds, shot the three really well. He's that post player that Kevin Young has been saying all along we are going to go get. This is an all Big Ten guy from Michigan State, and it's like buried in all these headlines because now you have guys that are playing in NFL preseason games going back to college. And it's all being framed, the narrative is former Denver Broncos cornerback Blake Cotton has entered the transfer portal. Like the headlines are just as wild as they can be.
Which is not exactly accurate, right? Blake Cotton is playing in training camp with the Broncos.
He was released earlier this month.
Oh, so he's not playing.
He's not playing. Former Denver Broncos cornerback who went undrafted and spent like a week and a half in camp is going back to college.
Yeah, he's not a former.
But it's written like this was Terrell Davis.
Yeah, right. He's not a former Denver Broncos anything. He doesn't get NFLPA benefits. Like, he's not.
Brian Greasy going to be playing at Michigan next season?
And by the way, many of these players have entered the portal, but they haven't committed either way. It's sort of a wait and see. And so I think there's a couple of dynamics at play here when it comes to football, because the basketball side of things is totally different. But football, it's like that train has left the station, and you've got guys. The metaphor, if you want to use the train, has left the station. Like, here's Blake Cotton running after this train, and then you see like Morgan Scally seeing Blake Cotton, and he's like throwing off current players. Blake, jump on! But that is basically, not just metaphorically, what has happened for these coaches, right? Like, yeah, you can take Blake Cotton back. Yeah, sign me up.
Yep.
You can take a lot of these guys that we've talked all offseason about their out of eligibility. Now they can come back and you're adding more experienced players to the roster. So there's the dynamic of, do we add this guy to the roster? What does that do to locker room chemistry? What does that do to the rest of the group? What about the dynamic of injuries? This essentially gives college coaches the opportunity to kind of play the waiver wire if you've got injuries. Oh, we've got a corner that's out. Cool. Blake Cotton's right there. Let's go. Come on in. That is an incredible dynamic that will only help the depth of the Big 12. I'm sure Greg Sankey will talk ad nauseum about how bad it is, because the SEC loves to have the depth hanging over everybody else, but that would be a huge, huge positive for the Big 12. And then there's the NFL side of this, which once the NFL realizes how bad for business this could end up being, they could put their foot down, which actually I did a hammer while saying put your foot down. So put the foot down.
Prepare the foot.
Prepare my foot, Roger Goodell says. Prepare my foot to one of his many servants. It's going to be put down. But many of these guys that will not make rosters are going to be vying for spots in the practice squad. Well, practice squad is anywhere between 100,000, 200,000, and 500,000, right? Like, versus what you could make going back to college. So, again, once the NFL kind of catches wind of like, oh, wait a minute, this is going to compromise our practice squad deal, what are they going to do? So, like, there's both sides of it. There's the college dynamic. Hey, the season's starting, rosters are here. Like, the train's left the station, but there are guys I'm sure that many of these programs would love to add back or add via the portal. And then there's the NFL side where it's like, whoa. No. Those guys are going to be in our practice squads. And we need those because that's the developmental part of the game where 2-3 years from now they could be starters. All of this is coming together at once. Oh, and by the way, Louisiana so far is the only state that's allowed them to enter the portal, because that's the biggest key here is the entering of the portal situation, which they can't enter, unless a judge rules that they can.
I don't see college football being excited about essentially being a minor league system for the NFL. And I don't think the NFL wants that either. But right now, where there's no rules, no guardrails, if you're an athlete like Blake Cotton, who just got cut a couple of weeks ago, and you can make 6 figures, maybe 7, playing college football, absolutely you pursue that. And if you're a college football program and you can get an all-league NFL caliber player this late before the season, absolutely you pursue that. So whether anybody wants it or not, it's just too attractive to turn down. It's too tempting for both parties. And I think your point about these are 2 completely different rulings. You have the Colorado federal judge that opens up the door for anybody from the class of 2022. And then you have this Louisiana judge who granted a TRO, we call it, not to be confused with an RPO. It's a TRO, temporary restraining order, for those 16 athletes, which has opened the floodgates. Every single court case, every single ruling against the NCAA in favor of everybody else has a domino effect. And this is the domino effect. Kansas State just lost their left tackle, John Pastor, preseason All Big 12, their best offensive lineman. What's keeping Kansas State from pursuing somebody who's probably going to get cut by an NFL roster in the next 6 days?
Well, and I want to push back on the minor league thing, because the reality is the NFL has benefited greatly from the minor league system of college football because most of these players get to the NFL, they're known commodities based on college football. And college football has benefited from being a minor league for the NFL for vice versa. The difference here is the eligibility piece. Now, Ted Cruz recently was like, well, this is why we need to pass the Protect College Sports Act.
Oh, yeah.
And he's wrong because this is a part of that. This is not about the 2021 class or the 2020 class or the 2019 class. This is about the 2022 class. And I mean, 2 plus 5 is 7, yes? I'm looking for an answer from you.
Yes, 2 plus 5 is 7.
Thank you. So I'm just saying, like, the 5 for 5 rule means that the 2022 class should still be eligible. So let's just say in this fantasy world that the Protect College Sports Act had enough votes to get passed, it got passed. This wouldn't stop that. So it's just important to point out the political jockeying that exists because it's inaccurate to say that this would still be a problem because this falls within the guidelines of the 5 for 5. That's the argument here is, hey, you said we've got 5 years to play 5. You've passed the rule. We're now a part of that. And the NCAA is like, no, we're going to start it next year. Huh?
When was Blake Cotton's first year of college ball?
2022.
Played the 2022 to 2024 seasons in the Big Sky at UC Davis. 2022. So he is eligible.
All these guys are part of that 2022 class.
Man.
The crazy sort of kind of funny part about this is, like, so we had the COVID situation and that gave an extra year for everybody. So it was like this weird Wild West of, like, I don't know how much eligibility this guy has left. And so it feels like we just got past that, and now this, where it's like, are you kidding me? Now, once again, we're left with, like, trying to figure out who does and does not have eligibility left?
Right, and initially it was basketball. Basketball rosters and coaches were scrambling to find athletes that would qualify to have eligibility under this ruling. Now we're seeing it with football. They were just a little bit late to the game because all these guys have NFL aspirations, and how many college football rosters have spots, they'll find a spot. And so the domino effect is the impact that it has on a backup freshman, left guard, or corner, or linebacker, or running back, who wasn't going to see the field, but he had a spot and he had a paycheck. What happens to that guy?
See, and I'm the type that I like chaos. Like, I like this. I like this a lot because this, like, it's so interesting. It creates so much chaos. Like, it's wild, right? And again, creates chaos for the NCAA, creates chaos for the NFL. I'm all in. Well, let's just step back for a moment. How absurd is this? Like, on the scale of the modern college world, with 1 being not absurd at all and 10 being absolutely ridiculously bleep absurd. How absurd is this?
9 out of 10? I would almost say 10, but, like, we're in this era where nothing's surprising anymore, right? And
right, like, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, on this scale, which is skewed by just how absurd most things are, how absurd is this?
Mm-hmm. Class of 2022 top football recruits. Who do you think was the number 1 player in the country from 24/7 Sports?
Who?
Travis Hunter.
That's amazing. Graham Rossini, the athletic director from Arizona State, is next. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio.
Last time they played, Johnson throwing the ball, and it's tipped up and intercepted on the deflection. What a pick! Xavier Alford came in from nowhere and picked it clean after the pass was broken up. Second and 3. Play action. Morton. Knocked away. Looking for the tight end Conyers.
Radio, Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Along with James Westling, I am Ari Temkin, and we are pleased to be joined right now by Graham Rossini, the athletic director for Arizona State. Graham, how are you?
Excellent, guys. Good to be with you.
Great to be with you. A lot to get to with you and your athletic department and just how much growth and incredible success we've seen in a short period of time. But we were just talking about this 2022 class ruling, and not just that, but now you've got the Louisiana ruling that allows for many of them to enter the portal. It is a wildly evolving situation, and I mean not just the 2022 class situation, but just the whole enterprise. But what is your feeling, read, take on what's going on right now with 2022 class?
Yeah, I mean, it's a day in the life in college sports right now. You wake up and what lawsuit, what injunction, what rule change. And so, I mean, it's borderline getting on the point of ridiculousness in terms of just how you wake up. And, we're in a position where we're trying to be strategic. We're trying to be planful. And I think that's the most challenging part about this moment in college sports. It's just hard to do those things. And we're responsible for the environment, being stewards of this experience. But as the goalpost not even moves, like the goalpost is zigzagging at this point. And so we've been on record, at ASU, certainly the Big 12 as well, as proponents of the Protect College Sports Act. I think Commissioner Yormark does a great job of saying it's not the perfect bill, but it's a very important progression in terms of just some regulatory environment. We just want to know what the rules are. We want to know what the guidelines are so we can actually chart our course and start heading in that direction. And so, we're eager for Senate to get back in September and have a chance to vote on it. I know there's a lot of conversation on the topic. It is imperfect, but it's an important step forward in two ways specifically. Already, we talked about this back in Frisco of just, getting control on the agents, getting them registered, getting them certified, getting some fidelity in that environment where you're operating with people that are looking out for the best interests of their client and fair to work with. And again, there's a lot of great agents. We work with a lot of great agents, but there's a lot that have ulterior motives, and that's really driving a unsustainable marketplace in a lot of ways. And then, the one-time transfer, we need to get back to that. We can't have every athlete in every sport be a free agent every single season. That's not fair to our coaches. That's not fair to our athletes. That's not fair to the environment that we're trying to steward and build. We're not trying to replace professional sports. We are trying to sophisticate the business of collegiate athletics. We're not trying to replace professional sports. And so, the injunctions, the 5 for 5, we're mindful of that. We're following the news every single day to understand what opportunities there could be. There are kids that are eager to come back to ASU that have been a part of building our programs, but we need a little bit more information before we really understand what that looks like.
Yeah, Graham, when you say sophisticate the business side, what are the headlines, and can you expand on those things?
Well, this is big-time sports business. It's not professional sports, but there's still a business component to what we do in an athletic department that's always been there. Now more than ever, that's a really important area of focus in terms of revenue generation and building your brand and storytelling and finding all these connection points. That it's not about selling a ticket or selling a jersey. It's about creating an experience. And it's creating an experience that people can invest in, where the byproduct of what we do, I think, is still as pure as ever. You've got 18 to 23-year-olds at this point choosing us, choosing our institution, choosing our city, choosing our programs, choosing our coaches. There's an incredible responsibility to that. We want to compete, we want to win, there's no doubt about it, but it's more importantly about preparing these young people for the real world and preparing them for society. And when you look at the early years of NIL, there's been a lot of great attributes, there's been a lot of great takeaways, but there's also been some false expectations set for these young people about what life in the real world is going to be like in terms of putting in hard work and sticking to a plan and having deliverables and having a commitment to something bigger than yourself. And so I'm not trying to be foolishly romantic about what college sports is turning into, but we are very focused on controlling our upside and building our brand and creating resources and connections that allow us to reinvest into a student athlete experience. And we don't want kids that are here for vanity. We don't want kids that are here for what's my paycheck going to look like? What's my car deal going to look like? We want kids that want to plug into an ASU network because we're very proud, we're very bullish, we're very motivated about what we're building here at ASU. And so that's a bit of what we talk about when we talk about sophisticating the business of college sports.
Graham, you've been around ASU a long time. You've been around that program a long time, even when you were working with the Diamondbacks, obviously, close to them. The Arizona State is new to the Big 12. But when you look at where you are right now, I mean, baseball had, the player of the year, and baseball's, had a lot of success. Volleyball, I mean, what an incredible season ahead for volleyball. Swimming and diving is one of the best in the country. Football has really grown. So in some ways, when you sort of look at your athletic department, when we look at your athletic department right now, it's like, wow, so many great programs. But it felt like a few years ago when you took over, this was not the case at Arizona State. It was a much larger mess. Can you just kind of speak to that and maybe what your first order of business was and how things look so orderly and successful right now when there was a period of time when it didn't?
Yeah, it's interesting to be able to start to reflect. We're 2 years in at this point. I'm 2 years into the role, and it's been fun to kind of look back at kind of where we started and where we are. And I think it starts with having just amazing coaches. We've made a number of coaching changes over the last 2 years, kind of coinciding with our entry into the Big 12. And we did this summer. We have a new director of track and field and cross country, Ryan Van Hoy, who just joined us from Cal Poly. And that's 6 sports. That's 6 of our 26 right there, and 6 that really haven't been earning for us. And so it starts with leadership in your programs, and really out the gate, one of our most important objectives were we want to operate like an athletic department. We want to be a unit of Sun Devils operating and advancing this effort together. We don't want 26 sports that operate like independent contractors and just happen to wear the same uniform. And so seeing our head coaches collaborate and connect and lean on each other and share information and talk about how they build their rosters, talk about how they plug into the ASU network has been really one of the best parts of my experience as an AD is letting them come together and really lean on each other, compete. They're all competitive people. They all want to one-up each other, but it's like those buddies you had in middle school where you might have got a 91, James wants to get a 92, I want to get a 93, and you kind of keep pushing each other in that regard of just trying to get better every single day. And so it's been a lot of fun. Our first 2 years in the Big 12, 9 conference titles. It's the most that ASU's had in a 2-year stretch ever, going back to the early days of the WAC in the 1970s. We had 5 last year, the most that we've had since 2007. And, obviously a lot of focus on football, men's basketball, women's basketball. Those really kind of drive the ship moving forward. But you talk about the momentum in volleyball, back-to-back Big 12 champs. We get started against Texas tomorrow in Milwaukee, starting top 15 ranked. Swim and dive, both men's and women's, kind of on this back-to-back run, producing national champions, producing Olympians. It's been a really fun thing to watch. Women's tennis, winning the Big 12 last year, getting a chance to host a regional for the first time in, I think, 35 years at ASU. Softball and what they did, women's basketball making the tournament in Coach Miller's first year. There's momentum around our space in all different ways. And, it's hard to be a well-rounded athletic department now more than ever. It's really hard to have that expectation that 1 through 26 are going to be able to go deep on these tournament runs. But we're looking at shared resources. We're looking at responsible decisions. We're looking at tools that we can bring in that benefit the entire athletic department. And frankly, there's a lot of attributes of using a giant university like ASU that our coaches are starting to tap into. JJ Van Neal, our volleyball coach, has probably been the most successful at kind of tapping into the engine of ASU and understanding how can he get a group of students and faculty to talk about roster analytics and help him build a roster and build a profile for how he wants to allocate roster resources in a way that allows him to build these NCAA tournament teams. And so it's been really fun just to have our coaches connect, to really point them in the direction of tools that are available through ASU or around Phoenix and the Valley here. And so we're on our way. We talk about we've got some momentum. That is true. We're also catching up in a lot of respects. And so both things can be true, but we're hungry and motivated and really focused on building our brands as a proud member of the Big 12. When
you talk about, allocation of resources, I'm sure in your mind you've got kind of an idea of the percentages, how much of the revenue pie football gets, or basketball, or women's basketball, or volleyball. But is that, are you able to kind of move that a bit as circumstances change? Maybe like, hey, well, there's an opportunity to get this guy, and maybe that extends us in a resource allocation for one sport, but we have to borrow from another. Is that, I guess, just give us a sense on how that all works.
Yeah, I mean, it's a balancing act. I don't think that any 2 years can be the same. We're trying to be fluid with the needs of the program. We're trying to be mindful of the marketplace as it relates to coaching staffs, as it relates to rosters now, and really be disciplined on it. I think the propensity is you always need more, and we want to continue to grow those resources. But the reality is we want to be very smart with the utility of the dollars that we put in. And so really looking at building out parts of our staff now that can look at the marketplace and utility of investment, and really take an analytical mind in terms of how we recruit and how you player develop and how you build rosters, because every dollar having that benefit to it or that return on investment is a part of how you run rosters at any level of high sport. And so now that we can bring that thought process and that reality and those tools into how we manage our programs, I think that's a big part of our evolution unique to ASU. But part of it is just driving revenue. And I think the beauty of college sports is still that every dollar we make, we're reinvesting into our student athletes, we're reinvesting into this experience, we're reinvesting into our programs. And so we've been lucky in the past 2 years. Our commercial revenues are up 20% 2 years in a row. And so kind of growing that pie is a big part of the goal, because the more you make, the more you're able to reinvest. And so, we're lucky. We're one of the few schools that our corporate partnerships is in-house. We don't have a third-party rights holder. We're in the 5th largest city in America. There are businesses moving to the Valley, setting up shop. We have decision makers all around us. And so what a great opportunity for us to kind of build these top-to-top relationships with corporations, knowing that they want to plug in as a partner. They see value in the investment into ASU. They see the value of a profile of, frankly, in the Big 12, one of the best benefits has been this national footprint. The fact that we can maintain the West Coast because we came in with the 4 corner schools and we have that presence on the West Coast, but having 4 schools in Texas, having a presence in Florida, having a presence with, Cincinnati and West Virginia, Iowa State to an extent, giving you bits of the East Coast, that's massively valuable. And what Commissioner Yormark has done with our television distribution and getting us on all these national networks, like, people can understand what's building at ASU. That's really, really important for us as we grow our brands, create more resources that we reinvest in our programs. And so, Ari, I think it's a combination of things. And again, there's not one playbook that's going to work year after year. We've got to have those tough conversations with our coaches. We've got to understand the environment that they're recruiting in. And then our responsibility within leadership is to find the resources for our coaches to lead our athletes at the highest possible level. Very complicated time in college sports. We're trying to simplify that mission as much as we can.
Graham, before we let you go, there's been a lot written lately about Kenny Dillingham and why he came back to Arizona State. And it wasn't just Michigan, like Auburn came after him aggressively as well. So we'd love to hear from your perspective the driving factors in those conversations and why he came back.
I mean, he's the perfect fit for us. I mean, this is a lifelong Sun Devil, born and raised in the Valley, coming to games at 3-4 years old, and now getting a chance to lead our program. And so I think, like any coach, they want to know that they've got the resources to do their job. And that's been the process. We've extended Coach Dillingham twice in the last 2 years. We know what we have. We know he's a special coach. We know he's a generational figure. He has energized this fan base in a way that few people can. And so, really the conversations that we always have are, let's start to look at where the sport is going and how do we A, catch up? How do we B, get to the point where we can start to advance some tools that we can bring into our program? And so he's tremendous to work with. He challenges all of us, and that's what I want. I want our coaches to be very clear on the things that they can identify that allow them to build the programs. And it's not about things that he needs, it's about things that his program needs. And so that's always a beautiful part of the process. He's tremendous to work with. He is energized the Valley, activated the Valley, as he talks about in so many ways. And we know, and to one of the earlier questions, the momentum that we're building is a credit to our coaches. And the fact that we have 8 of our coaches are ASU alums. And so you have people that have come through this university, that have grown up around this, that are now giving their talents and their attributes back. But you've also got coaches that are picking us. Randy Bennett, 25 years at St. Mary's, the only place he was ever going to leave for was ASU. And so when coaches at other schools can kind of see the momentum and see what's starting to happen here at ASU, and they say, I can be successful there, I want to be a part of this. When coaches that are having success are going to get, we know that there's going to be interest as jobs come open. And so staying in front of that, I was told this very early, the best decision you're going to make are the coaches that you bring into your department, because they're the ones leading your athletes every single day. And so when you've got somebody like Coach Dillingham and other coaches in our space, you got to have the conversations to understand what it takes for them to be successful. And then you go find those tools and you keep them motivated, keep them focused on the job that they're here to do.
Yeah, 8 coaches you mentioned, but an athletic director as well that's an alum. Graham Rossini, one of the best in the business and certainly one of the best in the Big 12. Graham, thank you so much for your time. Take care and be well. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Graham.
Thanks, guys. Good being with you.
Thank you. Graham Rossini, always fun to visit with Graham Rossini. And yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, 8 coaches are Arizona State alums, Kenny Dillingham included, and that doesn't even include Graham Rossini, who's a alum as well. I mean, that's a rarity in this space.
Well, and like, this is a program that's winning championships in the Big 12. They've already won a football championship, back-to-back volleyball.
9 championships in 2 years.
Like, they are humming, and Molly Miller has the women's basketball team rolling. Nobody thought they could get Randy Bennett, and they did. That was a huge add, and he has put together a top-half roster immediately for year one. Like, they're one of the most stable programs in this league. When you look at all sports across the board, who's winning, Arizona State is one that definitely comes to mind.
Well, and the story that to me stands out is how much of what you just said, how, impressive this is and what it looks like versus how much of a mess it looked like before Graham took over.
Right.
And I guess part of that is it probably wasn't as big of a mess as it looked like. And maybe sometimes you clean up football and suddenly everything else looks a lot better by comparison. And maybe that's just what it was. But whatever it is, I mean, the hires, extending the volleyball coach, getting an extension for Dillingham, right? Like, those things don't just happen. That's not just an easy, write the contract out and sign it, right? You've got to show those coaches, high-level coaches, a commitment to their sport in order to keep them there. Dillingham's an Arizona State alum, but he wasn't just staying there because he's an alum, because he's from the Valley. He's staying there because the resources and the relationship with Rossini are a big part of that. Rossini also just understands the modern world. He mentioned, what did he say? More sophisticated.
Sophisticate.
The business operation, which is a great way, to talk about increasing revenue and finding the revenue streams that work. He's got the business background from his time with the Diamondbacks. Like, it's as much as we talk about Dillingham being like a godsend for Arizona State because he's an alum, because he's so good, Rossini's probably as much of a godsend as anything else because of how unorganized and much of a mess it looked like before he took over and how organized and successful it looks like now.
They're upgrading their football facilities. They're upgrading their men's and women's basketball arena. And I keep going back to the coaches. Nobody thought they could land Randy Bennett. He's been the most sought-after mid-major coach in America for like a decade.
Yeah.
Outside of maybe Mark Few, nobody thought they could land Molly Miller. Her connection to the state of Arizona and Arizona State was that she was at Grand Canyon. She is from Missouri. The Missouri job was open. Everybody thought that's where she was going to go. They got her at Arizona State. Kenny Dillingham, Michigan, Auburn come calling, he's gone. Nope, not so fast. And then with what they're doing in baseball and volleyball across the board, the analytics model that they're using for volleyball, just a really, really exciting time to be a fan.
Yeah, we didn't even have a chance to ask him about that indoor that we've talked a lot about, but I mean, I just can't wait to see it. And again, like, that's how you get Kenny Dillingham to stay. You get him to stay by showing a commitment to the growth of that program, and that's what we've seen. And I think, like, the common thread amongst a lot of these modern quote unquote athletic directors is that, and that's not to say, like, the ones who have moved on weren't in the same vein, but it's that I think 10, 15 years ago, you might not have been ever able to keep Kenny Dillingham. And there's probably a lot of coaches like that where it was like, you're just not going to keep him. But now you live in a world that's far more competitive to where, like, you can as long as you show that commitment. That's the difference.
And they've already given Kenny Dillingham 2 raises. But probably tenfold, whatever that number was what they've invested into football and the program. That's what also stood out to me. Kenny Dillingham didn't want a raise. Sure, he's going to take it. It's a natural thing that happens when you're that sought after, but he wanted an investment into his program. And he has gotten that with the tailgate. What are they calling that thing? The new football practice facility that's going to double as like a resort?
Yeah.
It's going to be so cool.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
Jackson off platform. Knocked down on the edge. Keyshawn Elliott running and hitting in space. It is first and goal. Play fake. Chapin rolling right. Chapin is being pursued, and instead of throwing it away, he takes a sack. So instead of throwing the ball away, he takes a loss of about 4.
Cooper, nice pump fake, but trapped. Keyshawn Elliott again.
Outstanding job by Keyshawn Elliott. In the last 9 red zone trips. Connors gets the pitch. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to hide. Swallowed up by Keyshawn Elliott. Second leading tackler on the team. That's number 52 on the year.
They take off. Jackson rolls their way. Hit as he throws. And these Sun Devils, they are hitting tonight. No gain there. 2nd and 10. Sprint roll. And a sack. Keyshawn Elliott had Scotty Fox Jr. roll right to him.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Thanks for hanging out with us today and every day here on your home for the Big 12. Tune in, download the TuneIn app, search Big 12, heart the channel. That way, each and every time you open up the app, voila, there we are. Plus, you get not just us every single Monday through Friday from 7 to 10. You get power hours every day as well, with plenty of great content to get you ready for this football season. Today at 1 o'clock, Morgan Scally from Media Days, along with the Utah Countdown to Kickoff. So we've got this great combination of interviews as well as content specific to each of these schools. At 2 o'clock Central, it's Kenny Dillingham from Media Days, and then the Arizona State Countdown to Kickoff. And then at 3 o'clock Central, it's the Countdown to Kickoff K-State. K-State Media Day interviews with Colin Klein, Avery Johnson, and Shoeless Joe Jackson.
We have a change.
Taman?
We have a change.
No.
No, for that power hour, instead of Kenny Dillingham, it'll be a replay of Graham Rossini.
That makes sense. Perfect. All right, so remember, the content never stops, whether it's on Big 12 Studios or TuneIn. And, of course, if you're finding us on the Big 12 YouTube channel, you can also find us on Big 12 Studios by searching big12studios.com. We're on Amazon Prime Video, Roku, and many other platforms. So check us out on all of those places. James.
Oh, you're here too.
Hey, what's up?
What do you got going on this weekend?
Nothing.
Besides screenshotting my 2009 Facebook album.
Well, you asked.
I've made a horrendous mistake by sharing with you two goobers that I've got some questionable Facebook albums that I'm pretty sure are still public.
If you are not Facebook friends with James Westling,
You never will be.
Have I gotten run, don't walk, to request James Westling, and if he denies you, just ask me, and I'll give you the pictures.
I've made a terrible mistake.
Don't worry, I don't have any of those.
How many screenshots do we have going on right now? At least 6.
3, 5.
The most embarrassing. You know what? I'm not going to delete it. 2009 was a banger year.
That's right. I think some of these were before 09, by the way, just so we're on the same page here.
Okay, perfect. Even better.
06.
You don't bulldoze a historic district.
That's right. You don't.
I'm keeping it. I'm leaning in.
You actually do bulldoze a historic district. And then you make it into a parking lot normally.
Yeah, this has been a trip down memory lane.
None of these are embarrassing. Taman laughed.
Taman apparently strongly disagrees.
Yeah, you have some very creative content on your Facebook page.
I was creating content before content creators existed. Okay?
It's true.
The craziest part is back in 09, you post a picture. It's like 86 blurry photos from Chili's, and you think, that's the one. Public. All of it. These need to be seen.
So true. Everybody needs to see these. All right, James Westling, Ari Tepkin. This is the spot on Fridays where we normally do This Could Have Been an Email. It's the topics, stories that didn't need as much coverage as they got, but we're here to tell you that they could have been emails. Did you know that there is a Tupac murder trial going on right now that just started? So Tupac was murdered.
He was?
Back in the 90s. And then even though we didn't know who it was, wink, wink, Suge Knight, for years, decades, his killer roamed free. Until now, the murder trial of Dwayne Keffy D. Davis, the former gang leader accused of orchestrating the 1996 killing of Tupac, is currently underway in Vegas.
Should this be an email? Or should this be breaking headline news?
No, it should be an email. Breaking news. No, email. Subject line. 30 years later, justice has been served.
Did you guys watch the Puff Daddy, the P. Diddy documentary on Netflix?
I did. Yep.
Was this guy in it?
Yes, he was. And
I think that's actually the reason for this whole thing.
That tells me everything.
He was associated with the other guy who's in jail right now. Who was the documentary was about? I got one for you guys.
By the way, there is some belief that Suge Knight helped to orchestrate this, but it was Puff Daddy because of the drama between Biggie and
Yeah.
and Tupac.
Yeah. Well, the documentary very much makes it very clear who it was.
And by the way, like Notorious B.I.G. legend. We heard going back to Cali earlier. Tupac legend. Puff Daddy still alive. Give me a break.
Unbelievable.
There's no justice in this world.
T-Chains.
I got one.
What's
for you.
yours?
So earlier this week, ABC News tweeted out breaking news that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were moving back from the U.S. to the UK.
Whoa.
Oh my God. It was breaking news.
They were living in the United States?
Yeah, they were living in California, and now
Got
they're
it.
moving back to.
Oh, that's right. They did the whole thing where they're like not part of the royal family anymore.
Yeah.
But they're going back. Are they going back to the royal family, or are they just going back?
That was not disclosed. They just were moving back to the UK.
Yeah. Here's what happened. Hey, mommy, we're out of money. Okay, honey, come home.
I think it's the dad. His mom died.
Sorry, you're right. I can't keep track of a monarchy. I can barely keep track of politics in America. You want me to
Fair.
pay attention to some 17th century monarchy that still exists? Hi, Dad.
Did you watch their documentary?
No. I don't watch documentaries, James.
Corruption, bro.
My wife.
Corruption with a capital C.
No way. No way.
My wife made me watch The Crown with her.
The Crown was actually good.
Was it?
Yeah.
I have never seen a single
First couple
episode.
seasons. So my wife, years ago, when the first season came out, was like, we should watch this show, and she described it to me. I'm like, I literally could not think of a show I'd rather watch less.
That's
Like,
where I'm at.
But it is actually very good.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't vouch for anything other than season 1 and 2.
Okay.
And it's very historic. If you like history, you will find some there's some gems in there that you didn't know about that are pretty interesting. And then the drama between what's his name, Charles, and Princess Diana was pretty intense.
What is it? So it's not like what? I don't know much about it.
Historical nonfiction is what they
Yeah.
call it.
So like some of the stuff in it actually happened, some of it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty
Go with that.
Pretty much. Okay.
Some of it's accurate. Some of it is just for TV.
Have you guys been paying attention to any of the drama going on in LA right now with the two sports teams, the Dodgers and the Lakers?
No, what's going on there?
So first, the Dodgers. I have this could have been an email, even though I'm sure it couldn't have. But I think there's the owners of the Dodgers are not actually that rich. They're actually kind of poor. They have a lot of debt, I think, is what's happening, which could have been an email. And then the owner of the Lakers, Lakers sold for like $12 billion, and now the Buss family's fighting over the billions. Definitely could have been an email. A billionaire sold a basketball team.
Family fights over billions of dollars.
Yeah, right. A billionaire sold a basketball team. His seller's siblings are fighting about it. Every outline assigned a soap opera correspondent.
And all have very punchable faces. This could have been an email.
I'm sure they know how the rest of us live.
Right? It's trying to have some turkey carnitas for lunch. Got those at Sprouts last night. They're
Turkey
delicious.
carnitas?
Oh, yeah.
Carnitas inherently not turkey?
I'm not 100% sure. Couldn't tell you, but they say carnitas on the box, and they are tasty. This could have been an email. Can we just get a list of all the guys that are going to be coming back to college? We talked about this earlier. Every headline, former Denver Bronco, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, former Kansas City Chief. Just send me a list of all the dudes that are going to be eligible that can play this season in college football. By the way, you know who the #1 quarterback recruit was in class of 2022? Who, according to this ruling, would be eligible? I don't know what he's doing now, but this is a name. Anybody? Drew Aller. Did he get drafted?
Yeah. He's on the Steelers.
Is he going to play?
I think this is his second year in the NFL, no?
No, it's his first. He got drafted in the 3rd round.
Yeah, he got hurt this year. That's why James Franklin got fired.
Yeah, 2026 NFL draft.
That's right. You're right.
Just saying.
What was your question?
If Drew Aller was playing in the NFL.
Yes. Next question.
Connor Wegman, class of 22. He's still in college. Ty Simpson.
Not
in college. When I first saw this ruling, the first player that I Googled to see what year they graduated high school? Jalen Daniels, Kansas.
He was the 21 class, I believe.
Class of 2020. Dude's like 28.
Dude's like 35. Anything else that could have been an email?
That was my major. This could have been an email. That and the Facebook stuff.
Lance Leipold yesterday at the podium basically said he has not decided who his quarterback would be. That could have been an email. Subject: we have 3 quarterbacks. Email: we don't have one.
My favorite.
Even Chase Jenkins has got himself in the mix now. Like, this dude was, it was a 2-horse race and suddenly it's a 3-horse race.
As he should.
Which, by the way, does that make me more optimistic or what for KU football this year? You better believe 11 wins, here we come.
A guy that started at Rice, KU picks him up in the portal. They move him to receiver because they're that, what's the opposite of confident, that he can play quarterback in the Big 12. And now all of a sudden he's back in the mix.
Confident would have been a great word to use there.
Confident he's back in the mix.
They were that confident in him playing quarterback, they moved him to receiver, and now he's back in the mix.
Yeah, that works too.
And then Leipold says, we might even have to rotate guys through 12 games. Woo! Buckle up.
It's not good.
When's basketball season starting?
It's not ideal.
When's basketball? I can't wait for Trey White and Melvin Council to return. Championship.
Got to get through Texas Tech. That men's basketball team is...
I do love me some Grant McCaslin.
They might beat the Wizards.
Maybe not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
Maybe
yeah,
the
they're going to
Kings.
be better.
Put some respect on that name.
They're going to be better.
Go with the Sacramento Kings.
The
They're
Kings
pretty
the worst
terrible.
team. Man, I love the Kings. Why
They've
are they
been
so
terrible for so long.
Yeah, they've been terrible.
Sucks.
All right, thanks as always to our great producers, Anthony Smith over with Big 12 Studios, T-Chains, Taman Turner with Tune In. Thanks to James Wesley, I'm Ari Tepkin. Big 12 today, we are in a game week on Monday. This is not a drill. This is real. A week from tomorrow, the season starts officially, unofficially with a week 0. We're talking about all of it starting on Monday. Thanks, of course, to our great presenting sponsor, Modelo. Have a great weekend. We're back on Monday, but for now, we're out. Peace.